On the full scale stream, their stream went down, but it should be coming back up any second now. Let's hope. There might be a few things that I need to do in the background. Sorry about this, chat. In fact, let's just like let this play while I work on this.
Right now, he's back into social media posts, personal attacks against Kamala Harris, on and on and on. He's not talking about issues anymore.
Well, to be fair, I think the left started the personal attacks against JD, and he wants to have his running mates back, as he should. But Kamala Harris cannot get away from her record, and her record is very clear. A nonpartisan poll has her as the most liberal
senator in 29. Then they took it down.
Exactly. Most liberal senator.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find new.
The most liberal senator ever. Okay, so I got another video for you to watch while I try to get everything up in the background. I can find it here. Here we go. David Pakman, again, I'm sorry for the...
Welcome, everyone. After months and months and months, it feels like years of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. saying, I'm in it to win it. I'm in it till the end. Both Biden and eventually Harris and Trump are not what I stand for. I would never endorse them. I would never run alongside them. No, no, no. My principles and my motivations are pristine and unimpeachable and perfect. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has suspended his campaign and endorsed Donald Trump in a complete and totally bonkers gong show rally. We'll get to that later. But the important thing is that this sets up a fascinating showdown with Donald Trump's beleaguered vice presidential pick, J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance serves no purpose on this ticket right now that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has endorsed Trump, in the sense that RFK Jr. is a better speaker than J.D. Vance. He's more charismatic than J.D. Vance. It's at least theoretically conceivable that RFK Jr. would bring Trump some new votes, although it doesn't seem like it's that many. But remember that J.D. Vance brings Trump 0 new votes. And every interview Vance does, it almost seems like he's trying to sabotage Trump's campaign. So just to get caught up, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. saying last week that he is throwing his support to Donald Trump.
3 great causes drove me to enter this race in the first place, primarily. And these are the principal causes that persuaded me to leave the Democratic Party and run as an independent, and now to throw my support to President Trump.
Now, in throwing that support to the failed former president Donald Trump, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. did want to clarify he's not ending his campaign. He's only suspending it, that there are 10 states he's identified where being there would hurt Trump. So he seems to be acknowledging that the vast majority of support is coming from otherwise MAGA people, which is crazy given the way this whole thing started. But he says,
Kat, I'm going to pee really quick and I'll be right back. And then we're going to talk about what we're doing tonight.
I want everyone to know that I am not turning.
The furry one asks, how far are we along in the dono goals? We're at 1%, and we also lost our poll, so we're going to have to figure out what to do from there. I'll be right back. I need to pee.
Terminating my campaign.
Thank you for sticking with me.
no.
I am simply suspending it and not ending it.
Right. Don't anyone believe for a moment that this campaign is over.
My name will remain on the ballot in most states. If you live in a blue state, you can vote for me without harming or helping President Trump or Vice President Harris. In red states, the same will apply. I encourage you to vote for me. And if enough of you do vote for me, and neither of the major party candidates win 270 votes, which is quite possible, in fact, today
it's actually insanely unlikely. The scenario he's talking about is what is it, 0.1%? Like, it's not plausible.
our polling shows them tying it 269 to 269.
Sure, bet on it.
And I could conceivably still end up in the White House in a contingent election.
Yeah, right.
But
So anyway, I think you get the point. As if that wasn't delusional enough, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. also said while announcing that he's bailing that in an honest system, he would be easily winning and becoming president.
Labors. Now, in an honest system, I believe that I would have won the election. In a system the kind that my father and my uncles thrived in, a system with open debates, with fair primaries, with regularly scheduled debates, with fair primaries, and with a truly independent media untainted by government propaganda and censorship. In a system of
so very relieved.
And election boards, everything would be different. After all, the polls consistently showed me beating each of the other candidates, both in favorability and also in head-to-head matchups.
So much cope.
Yeah, you know, there's so many ifs there. It's sort of like,
look, if we ran the reran the election like 1,000 times over, this guy would still never win. This guy, you could rerun the election for 10,000 years, and RFK Jr. would never win.
if my grandmother had wheels, she would be a bicycle. But that's not the reality that we live in. And as is often the case with RFK, he gets off into some pretty extreme stuff and felt, I guess, the need or the desire to talk about puberty while announcing that he's endorsing Trump.
America's puberty rate is now occurring at age 10 to 13, which is 6 years earlier than girls were reaching puberty in 1900. Our country has the earliest puberty rates of any continent on the earth. And no, this isn't because of better nutrition.
Well, it's partially because of better nutrition, but it's also not unique to the U.S. So just because whenever RFK starts talking about medical stuff, things become completely radioactive, and his supporters will write to me saying I didn't actually address the puberty thing. It is true that the U.S. is seeing earlier puberty in some groups, but it's not only the United States that is seeing that. We've observed it in a lot of countries. Vaccines or something.
Oh my God. Aaron Patton says RFK Jr. is why you shouldn't name your child after yourself. Yeah, he's ruined the RFK name. That's true.
That have been looked at very closely.
Can you imagine if like RFK was somehow still alive?
Because it was so peaceful up here, but now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
As I'm sure he is in QAnon lore, if RFK was actually still alive, and he basically changed his name. Right, that's what I imagine happening, chat. Omega Star, thank you for the gift sub to Song is Out to Lunch. Song is out to lunch. You've just been weaseled. That's a good thing. And that's a really good thing, especially considering that as if I haven't missed my count, if I haven't severely missed like a whole bunch of stuff that happened, maybe while I was gone, we are like 7% of the way, but that's 6% more of the way that we were before Omega Star gifted that sub. So thank you, Omega Star. And yeah, I'm dealing with a really strange night tonight. Let's see, what am I missing? Do I just refresh this? Hopefully that works.
For safety, including long-term impact, and we have no scientific evidence linking vaccines to the early onset of puberty. That's one favorite of the folks that talk about early puberty.
And that's generally with somebody like RFK, what he's probably talking about.
Now, environmental exposure, like exposure to endocrine disrupting chemicals.
Although Miskatonic is proposing that maybe it's about age of consent.
Sometimes you find them in plastics or cosmetics. That's been suggested as a possible contributor, and it's being studied. Maybe there is something there. I'm not at this point able to say, but there are studies from Europe and China and other regions that report a similar trend to puberty moving earlier. And that suggests it's a global phenomenon, and lifestyle factors very well may be a factor. Nutrition is believed to play some role. It's just not unique to the United States. So why we ended up talking about puberty when you announced that you're supporting Trump, I don't know. But the takeaway question is, What's J.D. Vance's role in this campaign now when there is a far more charismatic, knowledgeable, and possibly electorally beneficial person that looked much more comfortable up on that stage with Trump than J.D. Vance ever has? So we'll get to that rally a little bit later. Here's the thing about birthdays. They happen all year.
Here's the thing about this segment. I don't think it's relevant to what we're looking at. So yeah, again, sorry that I had to go to David Pacman for this. This is like just who has the story. And I don't know how much we'll watch of this. This is a little bit old. Again, this is from I'm sorry, it's from a month ago.
This is Democracy Watch. Mark, I've gotten this question more than any other question, especially in light of how poorly J.D. Vance seems to the general electorate.
So we'll see if we can get some answers as far as, can J.D. Vance be replaced? And can my stream like come back after such a terrible blow, after going down right in the beginning of it, right, chat? That was awful.
Right now, can Donald
Are we going to be okay? Am I going to be okay? Is the bonus content going to be okay? The answers for these and more questions, I guess we'll find out.
Trump have J.D. Vance replaced? Are there any rules that prevent choosing a new VP candidate after they're officially nominated at their convention?
I mean, this guy has had the worst rollout of any candidate ever. I don't even just mean vice presidential candidate.
Yeah.
I mean, it is hard to imagine a worse pick for Donald Trump, who has done worse as his initial impression. I mean, let's set aside the fact that his policies are bonkers and the fact that he is attacking women who have cats. I don't even want to talk about what if you search on Twitter these days, you find about J.D. Vance.
Yeah.
But no, there's no way to get him off the ballot. There may not even be a way to get him off the couch. Okay, but let's just stick with the ballot.
Oh God, it's just not a good joke, right? You can't overuse the couch thing. You can't overuse the weird thing, or else it will stop working. Please, libs, please. Again, chat, if the stream ever goes down, understand that most likely I'm in the background trying to bring it back up. So all you got to do is go to the channel screen, go to the click on my channel, and hit refresh until it comes back. That's like probably the best bet. You can always go over, as some of you did, to the short stream. That is valid too. You can usually, sometimes Twitter or Twitch gets put back up sooner. I don't know. I feel like your best bet is to either find the short stream or to wait until the stream comes back up, because it always will. And if you don't come back, if you don't look for it, then you may never find it. So.
He is now the Republican nominee for Vice President of the United States. That paperwork the Republican National Committee has submitted to the states. He's on the ballot. Now, if he died or if he was incapacitated, some states allow for there to be a swapping out. There are some states that would say, that even if Vice President of the United States, find about J.D. Vance.
Yeah.
But no, there's no way to get him off the ballot. There may not even be a way to get him off the couch. Okay, but let's just stick with the ballot. He is now.
Okay. So this is interesting. He is
Republican nominee for Vice President of the United States. That paperwork, the Republican.
So you could replace him. I think you could replace him, but he would still appear maybe on the ballot. It sounds like the ballots are. In fact, voting starts in some places in like 11 days, or I think even less. I think like 9 days, right? There's going to be some early voting available. So yeah, he's kind of on that ballot at this point.
National Committee has submitted to the states. He's on the ballot. Now, if he died or if he was incapacitated, some states allow for there to be a swapping out. There are some states that would say, that even if he just turned out to be a total embarrassment and withdrew, he could be replaced. But Donald Trump has no more power to kick him off. Like they are stuck with this guy. And I'm pretty sure that he's not leaving the ballot or the couch.
Well,
now understand, this is a month ago, right? This is a lawyer, and his legal opinion of this is that he can't get him off the ballot. Now, I don't know, does that mean that he can't get him, obviously, he could be replaced, right? But he's going to be on the ballot, and any sort of negative that he adds to the ticket is going to sort of be there along with that.
Just to game this out.
Airrock 121.
Aero Rock 121 super chatted $10. Elon's diaper situation.
Thank you, Arok. That was a very well-timed super chat. That we're up to 17%. We're up to 17%. This could happen yet. This could happen yet tonight, chat. I also know that there's gaming frogs that are just riveting for some Fallout New Vegas. But that is a $10 super chat for the Elon diaper situation. The Elon diaper incident.
We're just like not going to react to that.
To the couch. I will abstain from reacting to the narrative about what JD Vance may or may not have done with his couch. That's between you know what? I'm firm on this position. What happens between that man and his couch is up to him and his couch, and I, unlike Republicans, don't want to get in between any sexual fantasies.
I'll stand up for the couch. I'll stand up for the couch if that's what's needed. But yeah, thank you for the $10 super chat. It's a well-timed thing considering what a weird. It's been a really weird stream, chat. I gotta admit, it's been a really weird stream. It started off weird. People were weird, and then the technical difficulties came and made it so that people, I don't know, chat. And it does this thing too where you don't get a notification when the stream goes down, it comes back up, right? It's kind of like YouTube only gives you so much notification juice. And if you've already, streamed, if you're streaming on shorts and you've got one stream that's just gone on regular, right? Then it's I don't think it sends out the notifications the same way. So thank you for your super chat, Iraq. That could not have been better timed.
Between a man and his loved ones. I'll leave it at that. That's my diplomatic response. Just to game this out for a moment, what if JD Vance himself seeks to step aside, to drop out?
Yeah, like I said, then you get into this matrix of time and reason, right? So the earlier he decided to drop out, the more likely it is that some states would allow him to drop out and be replaced. It obviously gets progressively harder as you get closer to the election because ballots get printed, ballots get sent out, right? And so one of the things is when does it happen? The other question is, what's the reason for it happening, right? At one end of the spectrum, if he dies, and, I hope he doesn't. I mean that seriously. I don't wish any ill on him. But, if a candidate dies, then a lot of states have permissive rules in that circumstances. Someplace below that is incapacitated, and below that is just I feel like I'm a laughing stock and I no longer wish to run. Fewer states, right? Because it is a burden to the state after the candidates have been certified and the ballots have started to be printed. Now, in fairness, the Democratic National Convention hasn't taken place yet, so they have not yet had to submit their nominee. So ballots haven't yet started being printed. But JD Vance, so I'm going to give you this advice. You're really not popular. And there's probably nothing you can do about that, but just sit on a straight back chair. That's my advice.
That's good advice. Do you think that Donald Trump at this point regrets choosing JD Vance as his running mate?
Oh, he definitely regrets choosing JD Vance as his running mate for two reasons. First of all,
so now I'm seeing chat ask me about the RFK whale chainsawing incident. That was originally up. Oh my God, chat. That's what I just realized. That's what needs to be put back up is the poll. The poll is what's missing, right? We need to figure out how to do the poll somehow, even though the poll got taken down. And even though only half of the people who were in chat found their way back. I'm sad. I am sad. I'll be honest, right? I don't know if Trump has thought about pulling JD Vance or JD Vance has thought about dropping out, but I thought about ending the stream right then and there. I don't know. That's
Donald Trump only chose JD Vance because he thought he was running against Joe Biden. Right? Let's just take all of the sort of fun out of this and just look at this as a straight analytical matter. He thought JD Vance was the right matchup when he was running against Joe Biden. JD Vance makes no sense where he is running against Kamala Harris. I mean, Kamala Harris is a much more, and this is not a knock on President Biden, by the way. He's been a great president, but Kamala Harris has a range.
Wait, Bad Lefty is gesturing towards something. What is it? Just above the shelves in the background? Just above the shelves in the background? What are we looking at, Bad Lefty? Oh, look at his head. Wait, what? Yeah, I mean, that's his head. Real weird camera effect. It looks like a slice of his head is missing. Oh, okay. I mean, heads can be differently shaped. Skulls can be differently shaped. And I think that's most likely what we're dealing with. I do see what you're saying. It does look like
broader range.
He's like a bit of a Wojak, isn't he?
Skills in terms of public speaking and prosecuting the case against Donald Trump. And so if Donald Trump knew that this was going to be Harris, almost certainly he would have picked someone who would be a more effective speaker. I mean, JD Vance is not a compelling speaker. He is not a compelling deliverer.
Yeah, like I said, the choice of JD Vance was for two reasons. One of them is that Donald Trump was overly confident. He had basically thought that he was winning the race. He was sure that he was winning the race. Otherwise, he would have chosen somebody else. The other reason that he picks JD Vance is that JD Vance can provide that money through his connection to wealthy people in Silicon Valley, right? So it's for money, and it is for, essentially overconfidence. That's why he picked Vance.
A message, and he runs very hard to the right. So I think he regrets that. The second thing, really quickly, Brian, is that Donald Trump doesn't like to be upstage.
Wait, both sides have it?
Donald Trump, if there's going to be a scandal,
I feel like there's a little bit more head on his right side, like his right, than on his left side.
He wants it to be about him, right? He doesn't want anyone else.
He's got a little less head on the left.
Taking the limelight. And I'm sure he's very unhappy right now. One thing Mike Pence was good about doing is he'd get like a fly on his head, but he'd otherwise like blend into the backdrop. And JD Vance is right now not doing that.
Man, whoever would have guessed that Donald Trump would have regret over not choosing Doug Burgum right at this point.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Now, far from being a boon to the ticket, do you think that Vance actually drags Trump down, considering he won Ohio, his own state, by a smaller margin than Donald Trump himself did?
Oh, yeah, there's no
Look, Bovine says it's his skull. It is definitely his skull.
question he's going to drag Trump down. I actually think they probably assumed that when they were running against Biden, that this was not a candidate who was going to be accretive in the vote share, right? I mean, he is running, JD Vance is an unpopular figure in an unpopular party. And so he was never going to add a state. He was never going to add a new segment of voters. But I think they thought they had that room. They now don't have that room, right? They are now running neck and neck with Vice President Harris. Donald Trump, by the time this weekend's over,
this is a month ago.
Maybe trailing Kamala Harris in some of the critical swing states. And JD Vance is an anathema to that key block in the middle. He is also extremely motivating of younger voters and voters on the left who have to be motivated.
Yeah. And by the way, to all of those points, you've been hitting those hard in Democracy Docket, which is the free news outlet Mark founded to focus on everything voting in elections. So for those watching right now, to support the work that Mark and his team are doing, and also to get a raft of good information on a daily basis.
Wait, Trump is treating the election like an old-fashioned mafia-style bust-out? What's a bust-out?
Please make sure to sign up. I'll put the link right here on.
What's a bust-out, chat? Anyway, we need to do this. Right? This is an interview. It's the whole thing right here, maybe. I can't tell.
JD Vance, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Full interview. Okay.
Thank you for having us here in Cincinnati. Let's start off with the Democratic National Convention.
Sure.
Some of what we heard this past week. Vice President Kamala Harris, in making her case, said that the tariff plans that Donald Trump is proposing will hurt the middle class. Here's what she said specifically, quote,
Sure.
He intends to enact what in effect is a national sales tax, call it a Trump tax, that would raise prices on middle-class families by almost $4,000 a year. Now, the estimates vary, but how do you respond to that charge that Trump's tariffs would hurt the middle class?
Yeah, so if you step back a little bit, Kristen, there's this whole thing that Kamala Harris did at the convention where she made a bunch of claims about what would happen and not enough actually reflection on what already happened, right? Because Donald Trump was already president. He used tariffs to bring manufacturing jobs back to our country, and I think he'll do it again. And he did it while keeping prices extremely low.
See, like, you got to show me data. You can't just be like, he brought manufacturing jobs back. You need to show me data.
Low, because if you go back to the Trump presidency, we had 12,000 factories that were built during Donald Trump's presidency. Inflation never really ticked above 2% his entire administration. In fact, was sort of...
Chargoon super chatted $9.99. Get some rest when you need it, heart.
Oh my God, you're so sweet. That is such a sweet sentiment from chat. Chargoon, thank you so much for the 99 super chat. And also, when you super chat or any kind of donation, right? Anything, any sort of donation at all, make sure you know that, well, wait, actually, I don't have the poll up. That's what I need to do. Do we need to put the poll back, chat? Oh, God, I already... Bonus content. I don't know how to spell bonus. Bonus content. I put bonesis. I don't think bonesis is the way you spell bonus, all right? That's my spelling error right there. Did we change our mind, though? So, new JD signifier... No, JD signifier, I just did the Vaush thing. I'm looking at JD Vance. I'm thinking FD signifier. I said JD signifier. I said JD signifier. Ethan and Hassan breakup. We're definitely doing that. Chat chooses violence. We're definitely doing that. Ethan diaper situation. Elon diaper situation. Wait, so the one thing that I'm wondering about is that, like, now I've got some people talking about the whale thing. Do we want to do the whale thing? Or should I just throw the whale thing in as bonus, right? Like, if we hit the dono goal, which, chat, we're like 83% away from that. I started streams super late. The stream's already gone down once. We lost a bunch of viewers. I'm posting cringe. I'm gonna lose subscriber. But you know, so the odds are against us. But we still stand a chance. There's no giving up. There's no giving in. We're playing for keeps. Okay? We're playing for keeps. It's not over till it's over. It's not over until we get it right. It's not over until we do an epic 80s music video to make people in the future cringe at our music video, right? It's not over. It's not over. But what I want to know, though, is, are you going to go my way in terms of the content? Are you going to vote my way in terms of the content? Am I just going to shout song lyrics at you? What am I even doing here, chat? What is even going on? I guess the one thing that I'm curious about is if people want to, yeah, I'll throw the whale head in for free. How about that? Here's the new poll. Boom. If we hit it, because the odds are against us, and because it would be so amazing if we hit the dono goal tonight, if we hit it, I am throwing in a free whale head, which comes with whale juices. Have you ever had whale juices before? Have you ever driven a car with a whale head on top of it? And there's whale juices coming out of the whale head, and they're coming into the windows. And so you've got to wear a plastic covering, and you got to put a plastic covering over your kids to make sure that the whale juice doesn't get on the kids. I'll throw that all in for free. The whale juice, the whale head, the chainsaw, the gleeful look in RFK Jr.'s eye. I will throw that all in for free if we hit the dono goal tonight. That's my promise.
Around 1.5% most of the time that he was president. So when Kamala Harris says, if we do the thing that Trump already did, it's going to be way worse than it was last time, I just don't think that makes a lot of sense.
Well, let's talk about Trump's record during his first term.
He's sitting in a very beta way. Can I say that? His posture, the way he's sitting, the way he's regarding his interviewer is like an entitled rich kid that is interviewing for a job that they thought that they wouldn't have to interview for, right? They thought that their name, they thought that their connections, they thought that their school, their network, all this stuff would get them the job. And that there would be no interviews, because why should they have to interview? They are obviously the candidate. It's like this weird, okay, so are you going to give me the job kind of thing? And it's actually weak. It's actually kind of weak.
Did impose rounds of tariffs, and it cost Americans nearly $80 billion in new taxes. Do you acknowledge that imposing more tariffs will ultimately cost consumers?
Well, what it really does is it penalizes importers from bringing goods outside the country into the country. And I think that's just a necessary thing. We know that China and a number of other countries are using effectively slave labor to undercut the wages of American workers. Donald Trump thinks that has to stop. And again,
yeah, it's a good thing that our country doesn't use any unpaid labor, right? Any forced prison labor. It's a good thing that our country doesn't do anything like that. That's only China. China is bad and communistic and authoritarian. And worst of all, chat, the worst thing about China is the
Dingus Gambit.
The dingus fucking gambit, okay? It's inexcusable. But thank you, Sasha G, for the, oh my God, it's a snappy lemon. It's a snappy lemon. It's a lemon head. Thank you for the lemon head super sticker. I have not seen that one yet. But I like it. I like it.
Kamala Harris is saying, Kristen, is that if you do this, you're somehow going to cause skyrocketing inflation. In reality, Donald Trump already did it. He brought a lot of jobs back, and it didn't cause inflation.
But
we experienced inflation after Donald Trump's presidency, right? Some of that inflation is probably due to supply chain problems. Some of that inflation is probably due to the stipend that Trump signed into law, right? And I'm not complaining about that policy, chat. I always get asked by Trump people in my chat, you can put that towards Fallout? I will put it towards Fallout. Oh my gosh, we got to do Fallout soon. What the fuck was I even saying? Now I'm confused. Oh my God, chat, what was I talking? I wish I could rewind myself. But so we did have inflation as a result of Trump's administration, right? And like I said, some of it might be because of the stipend. The stipend is the one Trump policy that I actually kind of agree with. I think that Americans should probably, working Americans should probably get something from the government on a more regular basis. I feel like our social safety net has languished, and I'm all for, especially during a time when Americans are being asked to stay at home and to maybe not go to their job, and a lot of people's jobs are closed down. That stipend, that's a good policy, right? Now, I say that it's a good policy, and I say that that's the one Trump policy I can really get behind, also knowing that it's not a normal policy that Trump would have enacted. Had it been any other situation, had his administration, his potential to get reelected not be on the line, had it not been that the situation, the COVID situation, sort of forced that on him, he wouldn't have done it. So I can't really applaud him too loudly for that, for that policy. But yeah, there's an example, if anybody ever asks, of a Trump policy that I approve of.
Cause consumers to pay more.
They just keep lying about who pays the tariff. They're like, China's going to pay it. We're going to make China pay for it, folks. We're going to put a big, beautiful tariff on all the goods that you're buying, and we're going to make China pay for it.
They paid more in taxes, $80 billion worth. Do you acknowledge that consumers ultimately will pay more if there are more tariffs imposed?
So economists...
Do you just acknowledge that?
No, I don't, Kristen, because I think economists really disagree about the effects of tariffs because there can be a dynamic effect, right? So what some economists...
I don't know. What's he expecting? That the tariff causes industrial production to be moved from other countries where it's cheaper to the United States so as not to pay the tariff, and that the increased economic activity is going to translate into immediate money in the pocket of the people, and that will more than offset the tariffs? Is that what he's trying to go with? This is copium. But not really, because he doesn't care. Trump and Vance know that the tariffs are a de facto tax on the working class, and that cutting income tax like they want to do is money in the pockets of the wealthy, of the idle elite, of the capitalists.
will say is what you just said, that it will actually raise costs for consumers. But what other people say, and I think the record supports what
Glenn Bess says, yes, so people like you get a real job. Glenn Bess, that's really mean. That's really mean. And that's actually kind of fucked up. Do you really think that you're going to get out of the effects of the tariffs? Glenn Bess, I got to know, okay? If you're a capitalist, all right? If you're in the upper class, if you're going to get your taxes cut by Trump, all right? Prove it to me, Glenn Bess. Prove it to me right now with a generous $50 super chat. Let's see you put your money where your mouth is, Glenn Bess. Unless you are going to get fucked over just like me. You're not in the top? Then why are you celebrating? Why are you celebrating the idea of having to pay like $3,000 more a year? If that's not going to be painful for you, then put that money in a super chat. Pass on the savings to me, Glenn Bess.
This other view,
whose name sounds a lot like Glenn Beck. And I would suspect that if Glenn Beck was to make, I don't know, like a burner account on YouTube, that account might be named something like Glenn Bess. I don't know.
is that it causes this dynamic effect.
It's like, oh, I don't want anybody to know I'm Glenn Beck here. Let me make it Glenn Bess. There we go. Bess. Nobody will guess. Nobody will guess. It's Glenn Bess.
More jobs come into the country. Anything that you lose on the tariff from the perspective of the consumer, you gain in higher wages. So you're ultimately...
That's literally what he said. That's literally what he said. That is the most mind-numbed take I could possibly imagine. And that's literally what he said. That's literally what he said. Oh, from the inflation. You mean the inflation that came from the global supply chain issues and from the Trump stipend, the one policy of Trump that I actually really like? You mean that inflation? You mean the inflation that happened across the world from COVID? That's actually worse in other countries than it is in the United States? That inflation? Is that what we're talking about? I was just trying to check. I was trying to make sure. I need to make sure.
Much better off. Yep.
Yo, Glenn Bess has got 1,500 and yeah, super chat me 1,500. That'll be fine. 15K. Make it 15K. 15K super chat, Glenn Bess.
Take home pay, you have better jobs, and also we have more reliance because
we're shaking down chatters.
One of the things we learned during COVID, I don't, by the way, blame Democrats for this, but one of the things we learned during COVID, Kristen, is that if our supply chains are really brittle, if we depend on the Chinese to make too much of our stuff, then prices can skyrocket at a time of crisis.
Wait a minute. Is he going to acknowledge that that was the reason for the inflation? That was a piece of the inflation. So chat, just basically speaking on a very basic level, all right? Inflation is affected by several things. One of these things is the goods available, right? And things like supply chain problems reduce the number of goods available, right? That's one part of the equation. The other part of the equation is the amount of money that is chasing those goods available. And when you do a policy like Trump did, which I think was a good policy, this is the one Trumpian policy I approve of. This is the one Trumpian policy I give my seal of approval to, right? Was the stipend. When you do stuff like that, then yeah, now there's more money chasing less goods. Hence, what do we have? We have inflation. We have inflation. And so what does the Fed do about that? The Fed raises interest rates to cut off that money supply to make sure that there's less money chasing the same amounts of goods. The supply chains come back and we have what we have now, which is the inflation has abated, and it has not abated everywhere in the rest of the world.
The economists who say that tariffs are bad, they don't take that into account. And we've all learned it the hard way.
And it is economists across the board, really.
TK7076 points out that Biden has not ended the tariffs Trump put on China. Oh, are you telling me, TK1776, are you telling me that the Democrats are in some ways but a pale imitation of the Republicans? Are you telling me that there's a real downside to the Democratic Party, and that's because there's not enough daylight between them and the Republicans? Next, you're going to be telling me that Biden has adopted a Trumpian immigration policy.
I mean, the Wall Street Journal says economic data showed that Donald Trump's trade war with China did not achieve its objectives of reversing the declines in U.S. manufacturing or reshoring factory jobs. I hear what you're saying. It's a complicated picture, but just on that bottom line point, you can't guarantee that Americans won't wind up paying a penny more, can you?
Well, I think that what you can guarantee is that if you don't bring more manufacturing jobs back into this country, you don't make our supply.
But she just pointed out that you've tried this before and you didn't bring back manufacturing jobs. They did not come back.
Supply chains more stable, you're going to cause higher prices over the long term. I think that is what is absolutely true.
So he's basically saying that Americans need to, especially working Americans, need to suffer for Donald Trump's weird thing about China. It's the China virus. Donald Trump's got an issue with China. That's why he says it like that. That's why he sounds like he's passing a kidney stone whenever he says the word China. And American workers should just bear the cost of that, right? 15K is not enough. Let's add another 3 to 4K to that, right? Because that's what you'll be paying if Donald Trump gets elected and he implements his tariff plan. It's going to cost the average worker between 3K and 4K more. So I hope you've got that in your budget. I hope that chat's got and you're willing to give that up, because
You acknowledge they could wind up paying more.
What I acknowledge, Kristen, is that unless we bring more manufacturing jobs back to this country.
Yeah, Shiny Nix is pointing out we have good inflation numbers right now. True. It's greedflation that's destroying everything. Yeah, and that's when people take advantage of the perception of inflation, of the perception of higher prices, and they continue to charge higher prices, even though their prices are not actually high. And you've seen a number of industries make record-breaking profits during this time period, right? So, when you got industries making record-breaking profits, you know where that money came from. That was greedflation. That was the surcharge that they fucked us all over with, because we're paying more at the grocery store anyway, and we don't know the difference.
We are going to end up paying more in the long term. Remember, the whole promise, now again, this was a bipartisan thing. My own party was as wrong about it as Democrats were, and Donald Trump was right about it. What they said is that if you shipped all of our manufacturing to East Asia and to Mexico, Americans would pay lower prices. Well, here we are now, and Americans are paying higher prices. And just one more thing on this, Kristen, because it's really important to go at what Kamala Harris actually said in her convention speech.
Again, I told you why we're paying higher prices. And listen, I'm being very charitable by not faulting Trump in his 4 years in office between 2017 and 2021. I'm being very charitable for not faulting Trump for that, right? Because very likely some of that inflation is due to his mismanagement of COVID, if I'm being real. But I don't know how much. So it feels weird to say that, right? I have a feeling that regardless of what happened, regardless of who was in the White House, there was going to be some inflation, right? Just by the very nature of what inflation is. Greater amount of money out there in the economy chasing fewer goods, right? That's the recipe for inflation. I think that you were going to get some of that anyway, right? So if he wasn't a lying asshole, I would... I guess I just wouldn't mention it, right? Yeah. Is he responsible for some of the inflation? Probably. But since I can't quantify that, and I can't, I can't show you the math on that, then I kind of feel like, well, okay, it's not really a big thing to bring up. But when he's trying to weaponize inflation the way that he does, when he's trying to blame stuff that happened during his administration on Biden and now on Harris, I'm a lot less charitable.
She says that she wants to stand up to China on behalf of American workers. If you're not willing to impose tariffs on companies that are...
So we should implement price controls like the Soviet Union. Yes. I'm going to Giga Chad that. Yes. Yes. We should implement price controls like the Soviet Union. Or how about we just ban gouging people How about that? How about if we just ban price gouging? You okay with that, TK? Or do you want the free market to continue to take care of us like it's been? Do you want some of this? Do you want some more of this free market activity where you have to pay like 4 times as much for your eggs? How is that treating you? How's the free market treating you right now?
Manufacturing in China, using slave labor in China, you're not standing up to the Chinese, and Americans are really going to suffer.
And on pricing and...
No, Americans are suffering from Trump's fucking psychic war with Xi Jinping, trying to out tough Xi Jinping, trying to out dictator Xi Jinping. That's what Americans are suffering for. He wants to get one over on Xi. That's why Americans are suffering.
Prices right now, inflation obviously at its lowest level since 2021. But let's move on. Robert F. Kennedy, the big news yesterday.
There we go. There we go. Will he be replacing you? Please ask JD Vance this question.
Very big news.
He suspended his campaign, announced he's endorsing Donald Trump. He is also known as someone who has blamed vaccines for autism, antidepressants for school shootings, and recently said, quote, he won't take sides on what happened on 9/11. Do you have any hesitation about accepting his endorsement?
No, Kristen, I don't, because we're going to disagree on issues, right? There are things that Robert Kennedy has said that I disagree with. I'm sure there are things that he said, or that I've said, excuse me, that he's going to disagree with. But I think what his endorsement represents is that Donald J. Trump's Republican Party is a big tent party. I was raised by 2 grandparents who are sort of classic blue dog Democrats. They believed in having a border. They believed that, you know, you shouldn't have censorship in the United States of America. They believed in common sense economic policies. They may have disagreed with Donald Trump about tax policy, but they believed in some fundamental American values. And I think what RFK's endorsement really shows is that the Kennedy Democrats are actually more at home in the Republican Party of Donald Trump. And unfortunately, Kamala Harris's party, higher prices, doing nothing to fight back against the Chinese, to say nothing of a wide open border, that is not JFK's Democratic Party. It's not.
No, we need wide open borders. We need wide open spaces. Somebody said that once in a song, and so it must be true.
RFK's Democratic Party. We're thrilled to have the Kennedy Democrats where they belong.
Well, and some in the Kennedy family.
What?
The Kennedy Democrats are actually more at home in the Republican Party of Donald Trump. And unfortunately, Kamala Harris's party, higher prices, doing nothing to fight back against the Chinese, to say nothing.
Oh wait, but you're bitching about you're bitching about her doing something about price gouging. That's communism. But you're going to complain about the higher prices that Trump caused. Really? Really?
Of a wide open border, that is not JFK's Democratic Party. It's not RFK's Democratic Party. We're thrilled to have the Kennedy.
Double Dostoevsky says, is it just me or can I see panic swirling behind JD's eyes as he tries to answer pointed questions with his dialogue tree of canned talking points? I think you're seeing something. Like I said, if you look at his posture, he's not projecting confidence. He is projecting entitlement and arrogance and a lot of stuff that people sometimes mistake for confidence, but it's not. He's not projecting confidence.
Democrats where they belong.
Well, and some in the Kennedy family.
Well, the whole thing about the border, why do we need wide open borders? Because it's a song, Insanitology, which is an awesome name, by the way. Because it's in a song. No, so here's the deal, all right? If you look on a map, you will find lines. They're drawn in a lot of places, right? You look at a map of the US, they're drawn between states. If you look at the map of the world, they're going to be drawn between nations. And if you go to where that line is on the map, you might be surprised to find that the Earth is not stained black there. There's not actually a line there. It is a treaty between the United States and Canada that says our border exists on the 45th parallel or whatever it is, right? And then somebody estimates where that is, and that's where the map. So what I'm telling you is that the map is literally not the territory. There's 2 different things, right? So you got lines on the map, you got different countries, and you got immigration. You got people traveling from one place to the other. Now, they don't do this randomly. They don't do this for no reason. You know, if I asked you to pick up your stuff pick up your life and move to another country, that would be an imposition on you. You wouldn't be like, oh joy, let me, deal with this headache, right? That would be a pain in your ass, right? Same thing for immigrants. Same thing for immigrants. If they are picking up their life and they're moving it to another country, there's a reason for that, right? There's a reason. There's something going on in their country that's not good that they need to get away from. So if you really want to look at immigration and the reason that immigration rates might rise and fall, it actually has to do with the material conditions in different countries around the world. What's going on in that country? Now, some of that stuff that might be going on in other countries is just like their shit. It's just what they're doing, right? That's just them. And some of the stuff, when you're talking about the Western Hemisphere, when you're talking about Latin America, some of that stuff that's going on in those countries is due to the role of the United States as a global hegemon, is due to the amount of power that the United States has and how it exerts that power. Let's take a case in point. Have you ever heard of Venezuela? You might call this country various different names like Vuvuzela, but it's actually named Venezuela. Venezuela is a country that the United States has attempted coups on multiple times, the most recent of those times being under the presidency of Donald Trump. So in other words, his foreign policy was to remove their leader and replace that leader with our dude, right? That was Donald Trump's policy. Now this policy fell apart. It didn't work. It didn't succeed. It was a very embarrassing failure, all right? They wanted to take out Venezuela's leadership and replace it with the leadership that we wanted, and they weren't able to do that. So what did Donald Trump do after that? Well, he imposed punitive sanctions on Venezuela that caused the country to experience an economic crisis. Hence, the movement of people from Venezuela to the United States. So your policy prescription, Mr. or Miss, or whatever honorific you go by, your policy prescription is to hermetically seal this border, is to take that map where you see a black line on there and make that black line a reality. Make it an impenetrable reality, right? Put a wall all over there. Patrol that area. Make sure that nobody gets in and nobody gets out, right? That's your policy prescription. Whereas my policy prescription would be something like a pathway to citizenship and better foreign policy, where we're not immiserating other countries and then blaming those immigrants when they show up on our doorstep. Because that's literally what happened. That's literally what happened. But thanks for playing.
Family have stepped forward to say that they sharply disagree with this endorsement. But let's just go back very quickly. He says he isn't taking sides on 9/11. Do you agree with that statement?
Well, of course I don't agree with that, Kristen. Now, to be clear, I don't know what RFK actually said there. Maybe there was additional context. Of course, you actually have to see what people say before you agree or disagree with it. I certainly have taken sides in 9/11. I'm the pro-America side. I don't think that we should have been attacked, and I certainly think hitting back against the terrorists was justified. I don't know what RFK said there, but what
hitting back. We were just hitting back against the terrorists, right? That's why tens of thousands are dead in Iraq, because we had to hit back against the terrorists. The terrorists weren't in Iraq, JD. The terrorists were not in Iraq. The terrorists weren't from Afghanistan either. The terrorists were from Saudi Arabia, a country that we did not hit back against, strangely.
I do know is that RFK said a lot of very interesting and important things that the Democratic...
I mean, I'll give you the interesting, right? In fact, we even have another, poor FD. Wait, what happened with FD? Oh, because I accidentally called FD JD. Look, Vaush was the first person to do that. And again, this is also winning. Chat, look, I got a little bonus content on the bonus content for you. Like I said, we are at 20% of that dono goal. It is going to be a very steep uphill battle to try to get some extra content out of me tonight. However, because of the significance of the challenge, because of the technical failures of this stream, and because of my own personal lateness to stream, I'm willing to offer you a bonus to the bonus content, right? So right now, people are voting for the new FD signifier video by 44%. We've got Ethan and Hassan breakup explanation at 22%. We got Elon diaper situation also at 22%, and chat chooses violence at 11%, right? So that's what the votes are for. And but what I'm saying is that if we actually hit this bonus goal, right, we're 80% away from it. We're 20% of the way towards it, right? 80-20 in a bad way, right? So it's not going great right now, but if we somehow miraculously hit this dono goal, I'm going to include bonus content, which yes, will include a whale's head, yes, will include a chainsaw, yes, will include special whale juices that may drip down your car and into the windows were you to affix said whale head to the top of a car, right? I'm willing to throw all that and more in, including a gleeful look in the eyes of RFK as he saws the whale head off. I'm willing to throw all that in if we somehow hit the dono goal tonight. So just to let you know where we're at.
Party has become too pro-censorship, that the Democratic Party, especially in the wake of COVID, became really anti-freedom and anti-child. I mean, you have Democrats saying that we should be masking toddlers in their schools, even though we knew it caused developmental disabilities. I agree with RFK that that was crazy.
Well, to be fair, there was a lot of information that scientists were grappling with as it came in, and masks were perceived to stop the spread of the disease. Let's move on.
Totally fair.
Yeah.
But the one thing before we move on that I would say on that is there were important leaders. Donald Trump was among them. RFK was among them, who were saying some of this stuff is crazy. And if we had
Who was in charge of the country, chat? Can somebody remind me? Because I keep forgetting, right? COVID really started hitting in 2020, right? Who was the president? Who was the president? Was it Joe Biden? Because it was 2020 and a presidential term is like 2016 to 2020 and 2020 to 2024. Is that how things work? Or do the presidential terms actually extend through the next year? And is it more like 2017 to 2021 and 2021 to 2025 and 2025 to 2020? Which one is it, chat? Which one is it? Who was president? Who was president? Because this would be crazy if the president was actually Donald Trump, and JD Vance is here saying Donald Trump was one of the ones saying that, you know, this thing with the toddlers, they're putting the masks on the toddlers. I don't like it. It's going to cause developmental issues. Tell me what developmental disorders masks on kids cause. I think he's pulling it out of his ass. I think he's making it the fuck up. Preprint in medical journals by epidemiologists with decades of experience. RFK versus RFK saying this is crazy. Yeah.
Listen to them, I think our kids would have been much better off in the wake of the pandemic.
If we had listened to Donald Trump, who could not have been the president at the time, right? It was clearly Joe Biden. Or was it Barack Obama? Or was it Hillary Clinton? Who was the president in 2020, chat? It was a long time ago. It's not exactly a year that I want to remember. It's not a great year. Who was president? Oh my gosh, chat. It looks like it was Donald Trump. So indeed, Donald Trump was not just a spectator sitting on the sidelines. Donald Trump was the checks notes president of the United States of America, and to this republic for which we stand. One nation under QAnon conspiracy theories, such as masks causing developmental disorder.
I mean, scientists did show that masks help to stop the spread of the disease. Let's talk about another big issue.
Disabilities for toddlers, right? We have to be able to balance this stuff. And I think the way that RFK struck that balance was much smarter, unfortunately, than the way.
Yeah, how did RFK strike that balance? Don't that's a beautiful baby you've got there, ma'am. Make sure not to vaccinate it. Oh my God.
Let's talk about another big issue that was talked about at the Democratic National Convention. It's being talked about on the campaign trail, abortion.
Sure.
Democrats made the case this week and beyond this week that Donald Trump, if elected, will impose a federal ban on abortion if he wins. Now, Donald Trump says he won't, but can you commit, Senator, sitting right here with me today, that if you and Donald Trump are elected, that you will not impose a federal ban on abortion?
I can absolutely commit that, Kristen, and Donald Trump has been as clear about that as possible. I think it's important to step back and say, what has Donald Trump actually said on the abortion?
Do you realize that in saying that, see, here's, okay, so people say that she was tough on him, I don't think she was tough enough, right? He's got so much wiggle room with that question. We will not impose a total abortion ban. So in other words, if he imposes an abortion ban with certain exceptions, even if those exceptions are like onerous to prove, right? Even if functionally it is a total ban, he hasn't lied to you. This is why yeah, I don't think she's tough enough.
Question, and how is it different from what Kamala Harris and the Democrats have said? Donald Trump wants to end this culture war over this particular topic. If California wants to have a different abortion policy from Ohio, then Ohio has to respect California and California has to respect Ohio. Donald Trump's view.
How about this? You want to end this culture war issue? We say that when life begins is a question that different people answer in a different way. And there's no objective correct answer that, you know, the smartest person out there can impose on the rest of us. So, given that it's a tricky question, maybe we should leave it up to the person in whose body the pregnancy has occurred. Maybe the pregnant person themselves is the arbiter who should decide, instead of J.D. Vance's theory, instead of Donald Trump's theory, that your state should decide before you. That if you happen to live in a red state, oh my God, I'm sorry, you're kind of fucked. You're kind of fucked. You don't have the ability. We will force you. We will force you to give birth. We will force you to give birth. It's not your choice, right? I feel like it's a lot more. It makes a lot more sense to, you know, respect the person who is pregnant and allow them to weigh those options themselves.
Is that we want the individual states and their individual cultures and their unique political sensibilities to make these decisions, because we don't want to have a nonstop federal conflict over this issue. The federal government.
Why would it be a nonstop federal conflict if it weren't for busybodies trying to impose their will on everybody else, trying to tell other people who are pregnant how they are supposed to deal with their own freaking body?
Ought to be focused on getting food prices down and getting housing prices down.
What the fuck is he talking about? Yeah, stop bitching about the fact that you're forced to carry potentially like the baby of someone who violated you against your will, right? Why focus on something like that when the prices of food is high? But then when we say yeah, we're going to do something about that, we're going to make laws against price gouging, he's like, price controls, Soviet Union.
Issues, of course, where Kamala Harris has been a total disaster.
Boo-boo-zella.
So I think Donald Trump is right. We want the federal government to focus on these big economic and immigration questions. Let the states figure out their own abortion policy.
Let me just
fuck over and fuck over pregnant people living in those states, right? I'm sorry, your state has decided you have no rights. You have no rights. Do you want to maybe get in your car and leave your state and go to another place? Too bad. The cops will fucking literally pull you over. You will have to account for your you will have to track your periods, because the state now has an interest in if you become pregnant and what the outcome of that pregnancy is.
follow up with you a little bit.
Can you prove that you had a miscarriage? Can you prove it?
On that point, because I've been talking to Republicans, including Senator Lindsey Graham just last week, who've made it very clear that if Donald Trump is elected, if you are elected, they will continue to press this point. Senator Graham said to me, I'm going to keep saying that there should be a federal ban. If such a piece of legislation landed on Donald Trump's desk, would he veto it?
Well, I think it'd be very clear he would not support it. I mean, he said that explicitly. Yeah, I mean, if you're not supporting it as the president of the United States, you fundamentally have to veto it.
So he would veto a federal abortion ban?
I think he would. He said that explicitly, that he would.
He's such a weasel.
And
I
again,
don't think he's ever said explicitly he would. He
Lindsey
said that
Graham,
to you?
Lindsey Graham, Kristen, I would be surprised. I mean, again, I need to see the context on what Lindsey Graham said, because Lindsey Graham himself has not advocated a federal abortion ban. Lindsey Graham has advocated
15-week federal abortion
a
ban.
federal minimum standard. Now, to be clear, that is not Donald Trump's.
Oh, there we go. There we go. That's not an abortion ban. That's not a. See, this is what he's doing. This is what he's doing. Anything short of an absolute and total ban in his mind, is not a federal abortion ban.
Donald Trump disagrees with Lindsey Graham.
This is why you got to pin this guy down. He's a weasel.
On this, but no Republican, at least no Republican with any reasonable power, is saying that we should have a complete national abortion ban. I haven't heard that from any of my colleagues. And to be clear, Donald Trump.
See, there we go. There we go. He defined it. He defined it. Like I fucking called it, chat. I told you exactly how he's trying to weasel. I told you exactly how his weasel works, right? He now goes on to clarify that he means a complete and total ban with no exceptions. So anything short of that, even like I said, if those exceptions are onerous to prove and in practical terms can never be proven, right? That's not a national abortion ban. So he hasn't lied to you, even though he is deceiving you, even though he is 100% a weasel.
I think, has staked his position and made it very explicit. He wants this to be a state decision. States are going to make this determination themselves.
All right, let's talk about women voters more broadly. The Census Bureau estimates there are...
Rob Bob says, Trump says he will leave it to the state. How about we leave it to the pregnant person? How about we do that? How about you want to end this culture war issue forever? Leave it with the person carrying the pregnancy. Let them decide.
22 million women between the ages of 20 and 40 who, for whatever reason, do not have children. What do you say to those women who hear some of your comments, including the childless cat lady comments, which you've been asked about, but who feel as...
So yeah, he's got a certain degree of scorn for her that's kind of transparent.
though you won't represent them.
Like, he's mad.
Well, I'd say, first of all, I will represent you.
And like I said, I don't think she's even gone that hard on him. I would have gone harder. I would have pinned him down. I would have dragged it out of him, what he's really saying in terms of that abortion ban, the denial that Donald Trump would be okay with an abortion ban. I would have dragged it right out of him.
I want to be the vice president for the whole country, and I want to represent everybody. And yes, I made a sarcastic comment years ago that I think that a lot of Democrats have willfully misinterpreted.
Again, we went over this yesterday. That's not what sarcasm is. That's not what sarcasm is, right? Like, sarcasm is if I'm trying to think of a good example. If I run a 20-minute mile and you say, "You are fast, lady. You are fast. 20-minute mile? That's amazing. What a good job you did. What a good job. You're a great runner. You should try out for state. You could really go somewhere with that running, right? You ran a 20-minute mile." That's sarcasm. That's the definition of it, right? Saying this country is run by childless cat ladies is only sarcastic if what you really mean is that actually childless cat ladies don't have very much power at all. And you'd say it like, haha, this country, I don't know, like, right. I'm trying to imagine how the sarcastic version of the childless cat lady thing would go. But the implication of that would actually be that maybe childless cat ladies should have more power because they don't have very much at all, right? That's what sarcasm is. That's the definition of it. You're undermining your stated statement with your intention that is supposed to be gleaned from the way that you say it, right? That people are be like, I see. He doesn't really mean that childless cat ladies have too much power. He actually means they don't have much power at all. That's what sarcasm is.
But what I've simply said is that I think that it's really a profound change that's happened in our country where we become anti-family, and I would like to change that. And I think if you talk to young women, whether they have children or don't want to have children, what you consistently hear is that a lot of young women feel like they don't have options. I saw this with my own wife, who's a working mother, who's a very, very accomplished litigator. She has 3 beautiful kids and always felt like she was having to balance being a good mom with being the kind of litigator that she.
Is he sweating? I feel like he's starting to sweat here. Omega Star, thank you for the gifted sub to Variant Sigma. Variant Sigma, you've just been weaseled. And you just got weaseled. You just got weaseled. Have I feel like I've missed at least one person's where they want their dono goal to go. So remember, when you donate, whether it's on Twitch through gifting a sub, getting yourself a sub, whether it's on YouTube with a super chat, super sticker, getting yourself a membership, or gifting memberships to others, whether you're signing up for Patreon or you are donating on Throne, right? Any of those, right? You feel free to let me know what topic you want to see. We've got FD Signifier's new online left video. We've got Ethan Klein and Hassan Piker's breakup, the explanation. Why did leftovers end? We've got Chat Chooses Violence, which violence is always an option here, especially when we've got more Suntent to go over. We'll get to that sometime, even if Chat doesn't choose violence today, though. And we've got Elon's diaper situation, which has actually got kind of popular amongst the donors here. You can always also put your money behind Fallout New Vegas. You can also put your money on Vox Populi if you want to throw it back to the chat and say, you know what, I think what should count is the votes themselves, right? If you want to stop the steal, then you can say Vox Populi. But yeah.
You wanted to be. I just want women to have more choices. I've seen that very personally in my own family, and I think it's something that is broken about our country.
Let me zoom out a
Rob Bob says, y'all are clueless and are going to vote a radical into office? Enough said. Yo, mic drop. Rob Bob. Golf clap to slow clap. Rob Bob. Golf clap to slow clap. Amazing. I'm speechless. I'm no comment chick. I have no comeback for that. Kamala Harris. A radical. I'm kind of amazed, Rob Bob. I'm kind of amazed, really. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. These are radicals.
a little bit. And you're calling it a sarcastic comment.
Sure.
And yet, some women, and you got the feedback in real time, felt like it was a gut punch to them personally. Do you regret making that comment?
Look, I regret certainly that a lot of people took it the wrong way, and
It's their fault for taking it the wrong way. I regret that. Oh, I regret you didn't understand my sophisticated humor, my multiple levels of jReg level irony. That's really regrettable that you didn't understand that I was actually saying that actually cat ladies, they don't have enough power. We should leave more stuff up to childless cat ladies.
I certainly regret that the DNC and Kamala Harris lied about it.
But do you regret what you said, Senator?
Look, Kristen, I'm going to say things from time to time that people disagree with. I'm a real person. I'm going to make jokes. I'm going to say things sarcastically. And I think that what's important is that we focus.
There is video proof that Kamala Harris is a radical. Have you got her, like, is she, like, in some kind of training video? Like, what do we have? What do we have that, is she in Black Bloc? What is she throwing a Molotov cocktail? Is she swinging a bike lock? What's she, radical Kamala Harris? Please tell me.
On the
Describe it, Rob Bob. Use your words.
Policy. There are certainly going to be things that I say if I'm elected vice president that people are going to say, well, I wish he had said that differently. I think it's most important to actually be the person I actually am and to say those sarcastic comments were made in the service of a real substantive point. This country
So the point was that cat ladies don't have enough power?
Has become too anti-family. It's too expensive to afford a house. It's too expensive.
So in other words, anybody that doesn't have a family, you got too much power. You need to give up some of that power. So it's not sarcastic. It's not sarcastic. Maybe he misspoke, right?
To afford groceries. Donald Trump.
It's too expensive to afford groceries because of childless cat ladies? What, you're gonna, like, execute them? You're gonna sacrifice them and we're gonna have lots of money?
And I want to change that. And unless we get better,
you're gonna sell them into some sort of a Handmaid's Tale situation? What are you gonna do?
Leadership, we're not gonna.
But again, just very quickly, given that people have told you directly, have spoken out, have said that they were offended, they were hurt by those comments, do you wish you never made those childless cat lady comments?
I think that it's.
Look, you want to talk about somebody that's starting a culture war? This guy right here. This guy right here. JD Vance. JD Vance is fomenting hatred against people that this should never be a thing. This should never be a thing. Look, some people have families. Some people don't have families. And in my family, the family members that didn't have families themselves, they got taken care of. All right. We went and visited them. We hung out with them. They still have their extended family. All right. And it's okay, because not everybody has to have a family. Not everybody wants to have a family. Not everybody can have a family. What this guy wants to do is set you against, foment hatred against, like, the childless. Oh my God. And you know what this really connects to? He said that he didn't like the idea that people without kids had the same vote as the rest of us, right? And he proposed an idea of, like, if you have kids, maybe you should be able to use their votes too, right? Big family, trad family. Maybe you should have like 20 votes. The father pulls up, of course the father, not the mother, right? The father pulls up to the voting booth, casting not just one ballot, but 20 ballots. And the childless cat lady comes up and she only has one. So his vote counts 20 times more than hers. He's got a big family. He's got a big family, so he should be able to vote more. This is what he said, right? Far from being a misunderstood, mischaracterized missive that he threw out there, far from being sarcastic, right? This statement actually is an understatement. He doesn't just think that childless cat ladies have too much power. He wants to do something about it. He wants to reduce their power. And if you look at who he's connected to, you will see exactly how he feels about democracy. And I don't mean actual democracy. I don't mean a good democracy. I don't mean, getting money out of politics and really being able to, choose your destiny yourself, right? Without any interference from capitalists. I'm talking about just basic, can you vote for shitty presidential candidate A or shitty presidential candidate B? Can you vote for shit sandwich or giant douche, right? That democracy he thinks is inefficient. We need to have something more like a monarchy, more like what they've got going on in Silicon Valley, where the CEO controls the board and has no guardrails and does whatever the fuck they want. That's his vision of the unitary executive. That's his vision of disenfranchising all those who disagree with him. Who the hell was saying, Bob, were you saying that we're in danger of choosing a radical with Kamala Harris? Do you not see that the real radicals are the ones that say, just come out and vote this time, you won't need to vote again. We've got all the votes we need. The one that tried to prevent the peaceful transfer of power? Do you not see that as radical? I do.
Much more important for me to just be a normal human being who sometimes says
So
things
no
that people
regrets.
disagree with. I have a lot of regrets, Kristen, but making a joke 3 years ago is not in the top 10 of the list.
All right, another big topic in this race is immigration. There has been a lot of discussion about Donald Trump's plans for mass deportation.
Yeah.
According to one estimate, more than 11 million U.S. citizens live in households with mixed immigration status, including more than 5 million children. If you and former President Trump were elected, would you separate families as a part of your mass deportation effort?
Well, we have to start with the foundational issue here, which is we have 25 million illegal aliens in this country right now because Kamala Harris has refused to do her job.
Very quickly, DHS says it's much lower. It's closer to 8 million.
I
don't know. Where do you get the 25 million from?
Well, I think the 25 million.
I made it the fuck up. That's the talking points I was handed. That's the talking points I was handed. But also the frustrating thing is that, like, Trump caused a lot of the immigration that happened during the Biden administration, right? It was due to the conditions in Venezuela, conditions imposed on them by Donald Trump's punitive sanctions. right? Venezuela got fucked up. People wanted to move out of Venezuela, and they showed up at the border. And since there's no pathway to citizenship, some of them might have had to come, try to petition for asylum. Some of them might have, and they might not have had a, hearing that could be heard, right? There weren't enough judges to hear the asylum cases, right? These are all things that are on Trump more than they're on Biden. And they're on all of us when we allow people like Donald Trump to hurt Venezuelans in our name, to immiserate and impoverish an entire country because he failed to enact a coup on them.
Are the people that should have been deported that maybe weren't deported, plus you had another 12 to 15 million that have come in since Kamala Harris. Look,
DHS
whatever the number is,
that number for the record. They say it's
fair,
closer to 8 to 10 million.
But I think there's
fair enough. I'm full of shit.
reasons to think that DHS is under.
Yeah, I thought I could get away with lying to you, but I guess not.
Estimating whatever the real number is, it's way too high, right? It's millions upon millions of illegal immigrants that have come in just since Kamala Harris became the border czar a few years ago.
She was put in charge of the root causes of migration.
Well, the root causes of migration, I would say, Kristen, is that Kamala Harris refuses to do her job as border.
So he's saying the root cause of immigration is the lack of a physical, hermetically sealed boundary that costs a ridiculous amount of unnecessary money, rather than the root causes are United States foreign policy. That's what Kamala was tasked to deal with, right? Kamala was tasked to negotiate with countries like Guatemala about these things, right? Stuff that would make his draconian immigration policies unnecessary.
And let's just start there. I want to answer your question, but I think it's important to sort of sequence this in the right way. So if you want to get control of the illegal immigration problem, you have to stop the bleeding. You have to stop.
These guys have diametrically opposing skulls. One of them is a triangle, the other one is round.
Stop so many people from coming here illegally.
Oh, you were talking about, yeah, with the other.
Undoing everything that Kamala Harris did practically on day one of the administration. You have to reimpose deportations. You have to stop catch and release. Stop granting asylum to every single person who comes in here and says that they need asylum, and stop granting mass parole. These policies are why we have the immigration crisis that we have. So I think focus on fixing the problem before we even
focus on fixing the problem. Great idea. Great idea. Let's take those sanctions off of Venezuela. To start.
Fix the problem, we've got to stop the problem from getting worse.
And as you know, President Biden passed a series of executive actions, and illegal border crossings are now at their lowest levels in about.
Yeah, Ezzy Sanchez says most of the immigration issues we face here in the U.S. is because the U.S. messed up many Central and South American countries. I was just talking about that, right? Venezuela is my go-to example because it's more recent, but you can find a lot of other examples as well, right? The United States, like I said, is a global hegemon, which exerts hegemonic power in Latin America, and that the effect of that power in a lot of cases has been very negative. And some of the immigration is due to that effect, is due to immiserating people in other countries. And if you want to deal with immigration, how about you deal with your foreign policy first? United Fruit says Double Dostoevsky.
5 years, so much so that Greg Abbott is no longer busing people to other cities. But let me ask this fundamental question, please. Fundamental question. Will families be separated under your mass deportation?
And again, because you made a point here, I do want to answer this question about families and about deportations. But
Rob Bob, I got a question for you, though. Is abolishing the democratic process, is that radical? Is a unitary executive radical? Is making a president unaccountable for crimes that he commits while in pursuance of his duty as president, is that radical? See, you're pointing out like some things as being radical on one side, which amount to like what? Like anti price gouging laws? And you're unwilling to look at the other side in its attempt to undermine any semblance of democracy. And before you even get there, before you even say we're a republic and not a democracy, yes, that's right, a democratic republic. If you keep it, but Republicans don't want to keep it. A lot of these assholes don't want to keep it. They want a monarch. They want an emperor. They want a Silicon Valley style CEO in charge of the nation that is not accountable. They want to disenfranchise those who disagree with them to be able to elect their favorite guy every single time. That, Rob Bob, that is radical. But thanks for playing.
You made this point that border crossings are lower. Border crossings at the southern border are lower because the Harris administration is sending more immigrants through the ports of entry. So instead of coming through the southern border, they're now being flown at taxpayer expense to the ports of entry all over our country. The number of illegal crossings, Kristen, this is a really important point. They're not any lower. They're just shuffling how the people are coming into the country in the first place. And this is very important.
They're
now,
able to
about
process them
deportations.
more efficiently, but
I think he's actually he's such a liar. It's hard to tell what he's saying at any point. I think he's probably talking about asylum seekers. And yeah, sending them through ports of entry is going to be able to process them more efficiently, right? Because again, the problem is there are not enough judges. There's not enough immigration judges. There's not a pathway to citizenship. The problem in a lot of cases is with policy, both foreign policy enacted by the United States, a global hegemon around the world, particularly in South and Central America, and a problem with the immigration laws in this country.
Greg Abbott's not
But
setting them to other
Kristen,
states.
I don't
But
want a
just-
border czar
just-
who makes it more efficient for illegal immigrants to come into
But
this
to
country.
this
That's why we
question-
have the problem that we have.
Senator, to this question, because so many people want
Oh my God. So she's not even gonna, well, here's the deal. This is an interview, okay? And he's engaging her as if it's a debate. I mean, if this was a debate, the thing to come back with would be that
And this is very
They're
important.
able
Now,
to
about
process them more
deportations.
efficiently, but Greg Abbott's not
But
setting them
I
to
don't,
other
Kristen,
states.
I don't
But
want
just-
a border.
Yeah, that she he's accusing her of wanting wanting immigrants to be allowed in illegally more efficiently, right? When what she's actually talking about is, I think, asylum and sending people to places where an immigration judge might be there and they might be able to get their case heard, their asylum case heard more efficiently. Because guess what? Asylum is a human right. It is something that the United States has been proud to offer to people who are in other countries where shit is fucked up, right? Proud to offer asylum. You know, if you can come in and prove to a judge that you are that you meet the stipulations for asylum, right? And the Trump administration wants to literally violate human rights and say no asylum. It doesn't matter what's happening in your country, or if you come from these countries, right? No asylum. Maybe if you come from these countries, you can have asylum.
Who makes it more efficient for illegal immigrants to come into this country.
this
That's why we
question-
have the problem that we have.
Senator, to this question, because so many people want to know the answer to this, will families be separated under your mass deportation policy?
I think that families are currently being separated, and you're certainly going to have to deport some people in this country. Now, I think you
So
start
that's a yes?
I think you start with the most violent criminals in our country. Those people need to be deported. That's where you focus federal resources. I think you, of course, have a number of children who are currently living with drug cartel members, not actually their families. We need to, of course, find.
So that's what we're going to do. We're going to tell you that, well, maybe their families are drug cartel members. And even if they are their families, we're still going to deport them. We're still going to separate families.
Their families and get them back to their families. But it's very interesting here because what Kamala Harris says is that Donald Trump wants to separate families. Kamala Harris's policies have led to thousands upon thousands of migrant children living with sex traffickers and drug cartels.
well-
that is the consequence of her policies.
But there's not a
Some of them are
policy to
even missing.
separate families. There's not a policy to separate families.
Oh, if you know that your policies will lead to family separation, you don't get to claim. Kristen, this is important.
wait, hold on.
Kamala Harris
Hold on.
cannot claim that she doesn't know that her policies
under
are leading to family separation. They are, and everybody knows it, and she has to take responsibility for that. That's what real leadership is.
There are some some families who have been separated, as you say, some because their parents are criminals. But of course, under the Trump administration, there was a zero tolerance policy, which is an actual policy. But let's move on.
No, please,
because we're
can I
running
just
out
make
of
this point,
time.
Kristen, because this is so important.
We are running out.
You insist on a debate with your interviewer. That's wild.
There was a zero. I'll give you more time. There was a zero.
Okay.
I'll give you more time. What are you talking about? He's acting like this is a debate.
Zero tolerance policy during
You're here to be interviewed, sir.
the Trump administration.
And she moved on instead of fucking debating you because it's an interview.
And that led to less family separation than under Kamala Harris's border policies. That's what's so striking about this. Actually enforcing our border is the most humane thing for children and certainly for American citizens.
But I don't hear you denying that families will be separated. Let's move on to something that Donald Trump said in North Carolina and yet again Friday night. He said, quote, "Our primary focus is not to get out the vote. It's to make sure they don't cheat. Because we have..."
Izzy Sanchez says Dole had to pay reparations just recently to Colombia for what they did there.
All the votes you need. You can see it. Why is Donald Trump casting doubt on the election before it's even happened?
I don't think that's what Donald Trump is doing.
Well, that's what he's doing. That's what he says here. We need to make sure they don't cheat.
I think that what he's saying is that we want to pursue a set of policies in the Republican Party that make it easier for every legal ballot to be cast.
Now, the truth of the matter is that what Donald Trump has been saying, and he said this at multiple rallies, this is not just one time, this is not just him misspeaking, right? He said this in multiple rallies in multiple ways, some of them more explicit than others. But he's saying to his voters, you don't need to vote. You don't need to vote. That indicates that maybe he is considering, maybe he has resigned himself to, extra electoral means to obtain the office of presidency. That he is planning to try to steal the election. That's what that sounds like. Now, here's why this is a bad question. You can't ask the fucking robber, now your partner, your partner in crime has said that you both intend to rob this bank and take all the money and, get it in unmarked bills and then to escape to, right? You can't ask that person that. They're going to fucking lie to you.
Counted, but make it harder for illegally cast ballots to be counted. Now, we can disagree about how many of those there are, whether they're...
So, yeah, that's what he's saying. That's what he's saying. They're going to try to get votes thrown out. They're going to try to disenfranchise people. They're going to try to steal the election. They have resigned themselves to the fact that they cannot beat Kamala Harris fair and square.
A few hundred, a few thousand, maybe more. But just in the last week, okay? So just in the last week, once in Arizona and once in Pennsylvania, there were major court wins that make our ballot process more secure and more effective. I think that's what Donald Trump is talking about, is we have to pursue...
Yeah, there's shit that's going on that's kicking people off the ballots. People that registered to vote are being kicked off the ballots right now in Georgia.
Sometimes through litigation, sometimes through better policy.
So that's what he's saying. We're going to try to win it with lawyers. We're going to try to win it with, corrupt local officials. We're going to try to win it with judges. We're going to try to win it in every way besides actually trying to get the most votes of the American people, because that ain't going to happen.
State or national level.
Because the American people are onto us.
A set of rules that make sure every ballot is legally counted.
Well, it's very different from your message, which is you said, and I'll quote you back to yourself, we have to work as hard as possible to persuade Americans to vote for us. Are you on the same page as Donald Trump? Because, again, he seems to be casting doubt on the results of the election before it's even happened.
Of course we're on the same page, Kristen. We talk all the time, and I guarantee you, if you sat here and said, Mr. President, Donald Trump, do you believe that we need to do, that your campaign needs to persuade voters as much as possible? Of course he's going to say yes.
Look, I know it sounds like my partner in crime was saying that we were going to rob the bank, but if you brought him here, I guarantee you, and you asked him, Donald Trump, do you intend to rob this bank? He would be like, no, we're not going to rob the bank. It's very important to no, of course not.
It's not inconsistent with thinking that we need to pursue a set of approaches that make sure legal ballots get counted, illegal ballots don't get counted.
Do you have faith the 2024 election will be free and fair?
I do, Kristen. I do.
It would have been funny to ask him about the 2020.
Fair, and we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that happens. We're going to pursue every pathway to make sure, again, legal ballots get counted. But I feel very good about where we are. I think we're going to win this race, and I think we're going to win it in a very good election.
All right.
There we go. Disastrous interview for the vice presidential candidate. All the way from just the posture that he adopted in sitting, across from his interviewer, to his attempt to turn an interview into a debate, to him sweating bullets as he's answering this questions. Like, this did not go well. This did not go well. This is yet another reason that Donald Trump might want to take JD Vance off the ticket. Now, Chad, I promised you I would do we do a little bit of polls around here. We do a little bit of predictions. We do a little bit of electoral maps around here. And let's do this again. Let's do it once again, because I promised you I would do that.
Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Tuesday, August 27th, 2024, and we are just under a week from the Democratic National Convention that took place last Monday through Thursday. The Democratic Convention that served to be a redefining moment for Vice President Harris, now seeing that her approval rating is surging as a result of the Democratic National Convention. What we saw just weeks ago, leading up to Kamala Harris getting into the DNC, was that her approval rating was undergoing a huge rebound and huge surge in success for the way that the American public perceived her. The day at which President Biden dropped out of the race, her unfavorability rating was 52.4% to a favorability rating of 37.8%. The overall net, negative 15%. And in just around a month, today, Vice President Harris stands with just a negative 1.7% national average, a massive, massive uptick ever since she entered into the race. And tracking her favorability rating numbers over the past weeks has been a very interesting process, because while Kamala Harris certainly has built up this very large perception of her in a very positive way, a lot of it was still largely negative. We didn't really see that many positive numbers, and we actually saw just a week before Joe Biden dropped out of the race that Kamala Harris's approval rating was actually not doing well whatsoever, even in the lead up. It wasn't as if, there was all this expectation around Biden that brought her down. It was more so that, Kamala Harris wasn't as popular as she is today. In fact, just earlier on in this year, around March, around the State of the Union, Kamala Harris dropped to one of her lowest points ever in terms of national favorability rating. And yet today, it really has rebounded quite tremendously. And you can see it. It is a very, very massive uptick. It is as if, all of a sudden Kamala Harris visited the homes of 1 out of every 2 Americans and convinced them to like her. And that's largely been what the major effort of this campaign has been, to redefine Kamala Harris, to make her more likable, make her more electable. And that's something that every campaign really embarks on when they take it into a race where a candidate doesn't have high favorability ratings, as we can see right before she entered into the race. At the same time, the numbers here that we are starting to see even recently, post-Democratic convention, is that Kamala Harris is now starting to get positives. Like I was saying, while we did see a narrowing of the negatives, it was still very much, negative overall. It was still good for her in comparison to Trump, and this election has practically always been about comparison. But it was very rare that we saw...
These are the same numbers we looked at last night. This is the RCP average.
Anything more than just one morning consult poll that showed her in the overall
favorability.
Positive. Outside of that, it was nobody else who said that she was gaining. But here's what we found. The Morning Consult released another data point today showing Kamala Harris up 4. Then The Economist and YouGov, which had negative numbers for the past 3.5 years, show a tie. Emerson also showing Kamala Harris up 2, but that was even pre-convention. And at this point in time, too, I am reminded of the Democratic Party's challenge in 2020, and that was tackling President Biden's favorability rating going into the Democratic Convention. Around the time that President Biden had secured enough delegates to win the nomination, he was down in the negatives. In fact, the entire time from that point on, from Super Tuesday, he was in the negatives nationwide, down 4, down 5, down 6, largely running very similarly to that of Donald Trump, except Donald Trump was in fact more unpopular. But as he did gain, this started to come from a reintroduction of President Biden to the American public. But it wasn't on full display until the Democratic Party underwent this huge surge in advertisement spending, in digital strategy, and in terms of convention showing to redefine who President Biden was, or at the time, Vice President Biden. And from then on, from that convention, the numbers tremendously gained for Joe Biden. He went from being in the negatives practically through the entire summer to being in the positives through the election. And that was the most important thing, because Donald Trump tried to do something similar. The RNC tried to redefine Donald Trump as a new person, Donald Trump as a new candidate. But the only person that it really did justice for was President Biden, who ended up riding that again into victory on Election Day. And so when you take a look, too, Kamala Harris is no stranger to changes in approval. We can see that earlier on in the campaign season, when she was introduced as the Democratic nominee for vice president, her approval was down, up just 1.8%. But then again came the convention, and her numbers started to improve. They started to get better, and more people started to know her, started to like her. And by the time we hit the election, we saw a tightening up of it. But right around the time to lead it to the election, it was 7-6 points during a lot of early voting, a lot of absentee ballots, a lot of provisional ballots because of COVID-19. And what we found was that Kamala Harris, alongside President Biden, recovered numbers that actually, if you take a look at the long history of it, it might have been positive, but when she was running for president in 2019, it was a lot of negatives. These are all data points from when she was running in 2019, starting from January, in fact, December of the following year, negative. It was not great for Vice President Harris until, again, she got the nomination. More people started to see her, more people started to perceive her. She was more on the national stage, and then they started to like her. They started to see more of her, and so they started to like her. It was less about how the media was defining her and more about how she was defining herself. It was less about how right-wing actors were defining her when someone is not as present or not as forward-facing. For example, when she was at the bottom of the ticket with Biden and Harris, she, of course, was not going to be as relevant or as talked about as Joe Biden. But now that she's at the top of the ticket, again, you don't see as much of Tim Walz as you do Kamala Harris, and there's a reason for that. And so Kamala Harris has started to reintroduce herself to the American public, especially during this convention process. And that's where she started to do well. That debate also solidified that Kamala Harris was the right choice for Democrats. I think the DNC has solidified that this was the right choice for Democrats in this election season with Tim Walz. All around, though, Kamala Harris making gains, seeing a growth in overall approval. This is really good for Kamala Harris. And I think a big part of it, too, is that, this nation is very much divided strictly down party lines. You do find that in elections, two unpopular candidates, somebody has to hit 50%, usually, at least, right? And so in 2020, despite Biden may not have been the most popular Democrat that has run for office, Obama was far more favored. At the same time, the numbers looked very similar to that of Obama's even first election or 2012 re-election, where Biden actually outpaced Joe Biden. Approval does not determine the outcome of the election every time. But it is a general indicator that in a race where there were two very unpopular candidates, it is clear today that Kamala Harris has completely turned that around in favor of the Democratic Party. Just take a look at all of this red. Take a look at where we were. Introduction into the administration, a year in, 2022, midterm season, even after the Dobbs decision, negative. All of these numbers were very red. You did not see a single positive until she became the Democratic nominee for president, until this convention. Which is why you see this massive surge for Vice President Harris. And today, it stands to be at the best it has been since early 2021. 3 years later, over that, 3.5 years later. And Kamala Harris is back to a position where by the time we reach Election Day, she could very well be more liked than disliked. And that is a problem for Donald Trump. Because when he was running against Biden, we could see that their favorability rating numbers were largely running even. In fact, Trump had the upper hand against Biden. And a big reason for that wasn't because Biden was this candidate who nobody liked. It was because Democrats liked him, but not enough. Only 60-70% of Democrats were saying positive things about Joe Biden when asked about it. With Kamala Harris, it is a unified, absolutely adore her. 90 to 95%.
I do think,
when it was Biden, it was 60 to 70%.
I do think this is potentially a learning moment for not so much Americans, but for a certain group of people who I'm going to call vote skulls, right? These are the kind of people, they know that Trump is bad. They don't want to see Trump reelected. And when they hear people that are on the left saying, like, I don't know if I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris, their impulse is to shame that person, to first, like, warn that person, like, Trump is going to be really bad. You don't want Trump. We need to get behind Biden, right? And then to make fun of that person. Okay, well, you're it's going to be your own fault when people get deported, right? It's just like, that there's a certain kind of person, right? And look, they're well-intentioned, and they're right that, Trump, the outcome of Trump being elected is worse than Biden or Kamala. But look at what they were doing before Biden dropped out, right? People were not excited to vote for Biden. And they thought, oh, well, I know how to fix that. We will tell them that they have to vote for Biden, and then they will get excited. We'll tell them how bad Trump is, and then they will get excited, and then they will vote, right? And they think that just because that sort of fear and that sort of knowledge of like what the other possibility is, just because that motivates them, that will necessarily motivate another person. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. I'm not talking like from a moral standpoint. I'm definitely not talking for a logical standpoint. That's the frustrating thing about dealing with vote scolds, is because they are being logical. There is a logic to what they're saying, but they're trying to impose that logic on people that they do not in fact control. And that does not get people to vote for the candidate that you want to, right? To get everyone out to the polls to vote against Donald Trump, you have to have someone exciting, or at least somewhat exciting, or at least somewhat encouraging, or at least slightly better than Biden to vote for, right? The proof is in the polls. The proof is in the polls. What changed, right? As far as policy, I'm not sure very much did. And that's me being a little bit down on her campaign, because I've seen her take back, good stand after good stand that she has spoken to in the past. And she's clarified those, but like, no, I don't stand for Medicare for all. No, I don't stand for this. No, I'm good at both sides, Israel, Palestine, right? What I see from her is like a very minuscule difference in policy between her and Biden. And yet her excitement, her poll numbers, and her approval rating, her positivity, these things are better. These things are better with Kamala. So, I mean, that shows you right there that if you want more people to vote for the Democratic candidate, you got to get a better candidate, right? And as far as the people that are still like, their stomachs are turned by Biden's Gaza policy, and they're not much more hopeful about Kamala, right? You are actually unironically better off bugging Kamala, bugging Biden, like making your viewpoint known that they need to do more for their voters, that they need to distance themselves from this failed policy of the bear hug of Netanyahu. They need to split from that, right? You'll have better odds with that as far as getting people to vote against Trump than you are going to have like just yelling at him, right? This should be a lesson. Should be a lesson. And like, look, I say vote scolds like it's a bad thing, but like I said, there's a logic to what these people are saying. I understand where they're coming from, and I, like them, do not want to see Donald Trump elected. I just don't think they're going about it in a good way, and I don't think that their methods are going to bear much fruit. Whereas my methods of, instead of bug the voters, bug the candidate to be better, let them know that they can't take your vote for granted. You're going to have better results with that.
And so his favorability rating numbers took a hit. And while I don't think they would have been, resulted in a Trump plus 8% victory, 9% victory, I do believe that Donald Trump was on track to win the election on the day Joe Biden dropped out of the race.
100%.
And that's why I had that election prediction 2 weeks prior that had Joe Biden showing the worst electoral performance for Democrats in quite some time. In fact, the worst electoral performance for Democrats since Walter Mondale. That would have been a really bad look for the Democratic Party, and they know that. And I think that's a big reason why Joe Biden decided to drop out of the race. But what we see here is that Trump was, in part, outpacing Biden in a way now that Kamala Harris is outpacing him. Trump's favorability ratings weren't suffering as much as they were in 2020, at least not to the same extent as certainly after January 6th. But point being here, that on the favorability rating game, Kamala Harris has completely changed the trajectory of this election. And so now that I look ahead, to an electoral map like this, my most recent election projection showing Kamala Harris up 287 to 251, I have always been adamant that this election was going to be close. I mean, even the race that I said where Joe Biden would perform worse than the worst Democrat since Walter Mondale, that still would have been a close race in theory, right? I think Donald Trump might have won the national popular vote by a few points and then would have won the swing states by 1 or 2 or 3. It wouldn't have been a blowout, right? And so I do believe, even with Kamala Harris on the ticket, it's a close race. We've known this about the 2024 election, that it is always and always will be a competitive race for as long as this nation remains as polarized as it is today. But when there are candidates who can make it through the weeds and can ride a convention bump, not only in national perception, not only in national head-to-head numbers, but also in the way that people perceive them on a personal basis. Kamala Harris changing the way that voters view her completely squashes any argument that Democrats or independents or Republicans even had against her being swapped out on the ticket. And to be fair, nobody could have looked at this now and predicted it a month ago and said absolutely it would completely rebound. I was a firm believer that should she had been swapped out, her approval rating would go up because people are going to try to coalesce around a new candidate equally. To say that she would go from being down 15 the day Biden dropped out to being down less than 2 points today with 70 days to grow.
Chat, you're never going to guess this, okay? You're never going to guess what just happened. An anonymous donor just donated $30 to Throne, which actually brings us up to 56% of the dono goal. Look, like I said, the odds are massively against us, and it's my fault, and it's my computer's fault, and it's Waluigi's fault for not having good posture. It's a lot of people can be blamed, myself not the least of all, right? But we're now only 44% from hitting that dono goal, and we got a little bit more content to go yet. So I'm holding out some hope. Again, as always, when you donate, feel free to let me know in the chat which of these topics you want to see, right? We've got FD Signifiers Online Left. We got Ethan and Hassan, their breakup, like how Leftovers ended. The explanation. We got Chat Chooses Violence, which is always a fun option. And we got the Elon diaper situation. And yeah, when you donate, you can let me know, and I will put your donation as a percentage, as an additional percentage for the topic of your choice. So you'll actually make it more likely for the topic that you want to win to actually win. All you have to do is let me know what you're choosing. That goes for any kind of donation out there.
And a convention bump that looks like it's starting to form. It is point after point after point that I cannot express enough that this campaign, for the month and a week that it has been run very powerfully. $580 million fundraised for the Kamala Harris campaign, not just including ActBlue. $582 million for Kamala Harris's presidential campaign alone since July 21st. That is an insane amount of funding. That is an insane amount of money. And it's the reason why you now have tens of field offices opening up in battleground states, while you have $300+ million slated in advertisement spending after Labor Day. You have probably been seeing Kamala Harris ads left and right on the TV, on YouTube, on TikTok, anywhere you go. Big reason, or maybe not on TikTok, but big reason that you're seeing it is because the advertisement structure has been set up so powerfully because it is funded. I can only imagine that we will be seeing even more after Labor Day. And that's good news for Kamala Harris, because it is this multi-part effort that has saved the Democratic Party's candidacy this election. And it is Kamala Harris who Democrats have to thank, and who certainly is bringing, in Tim Walz's words, the joy back to the race for the Democratic Party. Because they are far more unified than they have been in a very long time. These unanimous positive ratings, doing super well, is unlike anything we saw for President Biden since 2021. And Biden had 3 years to do it. What Kamala Harris has accomplished in a month, and that has changed the way that Americans view her. Turn her track record into something very positive, where many Republicans thought it would be a detriment. Leaning into her work in the administration where it matters, like abortion rights advocacy, student loan debt forgiveness, capping insulin for seniors, things that are good for Kamala Harris from the administration she can latch onto. In moments where Democrats may have heavy disagreements with that of President Biden, she can also use that. She's in a unique enough position that people can say, she's not the president, she can't do this now. She clearly has some fundamental disagreements with that of some Democrats. And some even could say President Biden. At the same time, she can take credit for a lot of what has been done good for America on behalf of the Biden-Harris administration. And so it's a really good place to be when you are someone like Kamala Harris who's looking for a unified party. You got that. Looking for a lot of money. You got that. Looking for an energized youth electorate. You have that. And that's why I think, too, people are now seeing her in a different light, whether on social media or TV or even watching the convention, which had over 20 million viewers every single day. millions of more viewers than that of the RNC. I think 8 to 9 million more viewers than that of the RNC. And the Republican Party loves ratings. And that was an RNC that happened just days after Donald Trump had an assassination attempt on his life, days after JD Vance was announced as the Republican nominee for vice president. And this was a time frame in which the RNC should have been the most tapped into. The RNC should have been the most watched. The RNC had everything going for them.
Very disingenuous to say unified and unanimous approval. Yeah, there's a portion of the party that doesn't understand what should be a very clear correlation between Biden's sinking in the polls and his Gaza policy, right? These are people that generally don't care that much about policy, right? They're Team Democrat, but if the Democrats decide, guess who's getting thrown under the bus this week? It's going to be immigrants thrown under the bus. They'll be like, yeah, fuck those immigrants. Yeah, that's right. We were for them just a second ago, but the Democrats said fuck them, so fuck them because I'm Team Democrat, right? And same thing with same thing with what's going on in Gaza, right? There are Democrats out there, and they don't get that there are people out there that are not like them. They don't get that a meaningful portion of people are having trouble voting for a ticket that won't do the bare minimum in terms of standing up for Palestinians. And they think that the power move, they think that the strategic move, they think that the electorally beneficial move, because that's how these people think of, right? They chalking up that score. Chalking up that score for Team Democrat, right? Did Team Democrat win? That's all I care about. That's all I care about, the scoreboard, right? It doesn't mean anything, right? And there's no realization that this is about policy. At the end of the day, this is about reality. This is about how things are going to be. But yeah, there's a certain degree of nihilism, I would say.
And Democrats just decided, now that Kamala Harris is on the ticket, that they have everything going for them. And the American public is agreeing. This surge in approval is unlike anything we have seen in a very long time. I think in 2020 is really the only comparison.
What's my solution to help Palestine? You could start with conditioning military aid on a ceasefire, an immediate ceasefire, and a real ceasefire. You could start with that.
Terrible point there, but even then, we certainly did not see a 14-point swing nationally in under a month. And so this swing here, I think, in favor of Kamala Harris is one that is indicative of what a very good and very put-together campaign can do against a candidacy like that of Donald Trump. Because I don't deny that Kamala Harris's numbers are likely doing better because her direct point of comparison is now Donald Trump. Because her direct point of comparison are Republicans who are perceived as too extreme and too insane for the average American centrist voter. That's where Kamala Harris is coming into this, which is why you do see back in 2020, they are still in very much, embodiment of viewpoints and belief sets and whatever it might be, the same people they were in 2020. But they were running against an opposition candidate. The only problem for Joe Biden is that he couldn't recover it against Donald Trump. Voters didn't like Joe Biden more, even if they were voting for him, and maybe he could have won. I mean, I don't think he was going to on the day he dropped out, but there was still a non-zero chance that Donald Trump would have lost that election, maybe 10, 20%, but that's still a chance. And it would have been an electoral college upset, absolutely. But it would have been one that wouldn't have been driven by a favorability rating. But now Kamala Harris has this on her side, which is why I do believe her odds are far higher and why everybody agrees, yes, her odds are far higher, because they are. They're a lot better for Kamala Harris. They're doing better for the Democratic ticket, up and down it. And Kamala Harris is the person Democrats have to thank, and this DNC will likely work wonders for the future.
Yeah, it's disturbing how many people don't see what went wrong on the last night of the DNC. And I said the vibes were off, but I mean, that's not what I mean, right? I'm talking about Kamala's speech. I'm talking about her resurrecting the image of Kamala that she once tried to bury. Okay. So I feel like we've come to the time in the chat where we're gonna, in the stream, that's what it is. It's a live stream, where we're gonna consolidate streams. Whoa, I pressed the wrong Control V there. Let's press the right one. Let us consolidate into one powerful chat. Shall we? We're gonna finish the stream. And maybe even do some bonus content. Who knows? We're at 56%. Again, thank you, Anonymous, for the generous drone donation. I am blown away. Move it or lose it. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. I don't know. Somebody said early on I had an attitude. And I'm kind of like, what? Am I that passive that when I have like a little bit of verve to me, it gets taken as a mood? That's just like... No, I'm here to react, okay? I'm here to react to the input I'm given, and that means input from chatters, and that means input from content. Right? That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm here for. Nothing more and nothing less. No, I mean, I'm sure some more than that. Like, I do more than just react, don't I? Do I just react? Maybe I just react. Maybe that's like literally all that I do. It's react. But yeah, I'm waiting for Shorts chat to move over to the full scale chat, and then we're gonna switch to the main content for the night. People keep on asking, did I miss the Vaush tent? No, you didn't miss the Vaush tent. We're just getting started. We're just getting started to Vaush. All right. And I mean, like, it's fairly short, and oh my god, it's so cursed. It's so cursed.
Shiny Nix 86 super chatted $5. I'm afraid to vote after last night, but I guess I'll vote for the Hassan thing.
Oh my gosh.
Hopefully it will be safer than the all-fist weirdo.
I completely empathize with you in that. That was, yeah, I was kind of like, do you know what a fault hist is? Because like the super chats that you were giving kind of made me think that you were just like, oh, an alternate history thing. That could be, I mean, which can be fun. Sure. It's a fun little game to play in your head. It's a fun thing to maybe make videos about. I mean, there's like there's a subsection of alt hist that where their alt hist is like, what if the Confederacy had won the Civil War, or what the, I can't do the German accent. Oh God, I shouldn't. But like, you know, I mean, that kind of alt hist, right, is its own thing. What if alt hist, I mean, it's pretty right wing. But that, I don't know, is that what he got started doing? I should look more into it. It's one of these people that like a lot of streamers watch just as something to react to. And I never really knew why, but people kept on being like, you gotta do what if alt hist. We gotta see what is going on here. Okay, why can't I find this? Oh my god, jReg. Let's see if I can find... There it is, far left. No.
I don't know, appealing towards people.
This is so terrible, okay? I hope you're ready for this. Right now, look, jReg, if you don't know, or jReg, is, I call him a living political compass meme. because his videos have been him talking about extremist ideologies and kind of pretending to agree with various of them, making people wonder what jReg's real ideology actually is. And, you know, he's been evasive, to say the least, right? But one thing's for damn sure, jReg is not a leftist. But I think that some people have fooled themselves into thinking that he is. If you actually pay attention to what he's doing, it's a balanced set of dog whistles in all directions. And surprise of surprises, jReg offers to canvass for progressive victory. And thank you, Shiny Nix, for the $5 super chat. What are we at now? 61%. So we're 39% of the way from making it. I'm going to end the stream on Shorts right now. Everybody just... Twitch, you can stay where you are. I'm not telling you to go anywhere. You watch the stream wherever you're most comfortable. But I'm going to bring everybody else into the horizontal stream, which I hope is okay. So we're ready to go. We're ready to get going. Shiny Nick says, I'm a history student. I thought I was going to have something to do with history. There was no history, not even fake history. He broke me. He breaks. Yeah, he has that effect. He does have that effect. All right. Raiding everybody in. Hopefully, if that works. Transporting indeed. Let's go going. Okay, so yeah, we've got jReg. We got jReg. Where the fuck does he exist, though? Right here. So this is jReg, who I probably could have already put on screen if I was smart. I'll be smart someday, chat. I'll be really, really smart. I'll say all the right things at all the right times, and people will love me for it. But yeah, this is jReg standing behind Vaush. This video is literally called I Canvassed with the Far Left to Defeat. And it's a anti-Semitic dog whistle. Now, I don't think he's serious about that. But he's literally putting anti-Semitism on the Free Palestine movement. That's as close to a description of jReg's viewpoint as we're going to get today. If you want to know what this guy believes, if you don't want to know what this guy stands for, you are going to be left with more questions than answers. Because it is his character, it is his online existence to obfuscate those facts. But yeah, all I can tell you for sure is that he is ridiculing the people of Progressive Victory, who I have ridiculed, but for vastly different reasons. For completely different reasons. I mean, for me, Progressive Victory being a super PAC that does not disclose its sources, who's you know behind it, right? It's kind of a fucked up thing for a bunch of progressive streamers to, you know, like I mean, I get the impulse to be, you talk progressive politics in your stream and your content, and you want to do something, you want to model something, and maybe you want to bring some of your community out to help somebody like Jamal Bowman in a canvassing operation, right? Okay, fine. I don't have a problem with that. But like, goddamn, do you have to do it through the Dark Money PAC? Right? Do you have to do it through the PAC that was like begun with Brianna Wu? Like, really? Is there not a better way to do this? He's a poli-sci major that never took a side and just likes learning ideologies. I agree with you, Sizal. I'm not asking jReg to be anything different than he is. I'm asking the people at Progressive Victory to recognize the very obvious fact that when jReg says, I'm showing up to Canvas, you are going to be content. And I don't think that this is content that's going to end Progressive Victory. I mean, I don't know. It's embarrassing. The fact that he's just there shoving it in their face and they're kind of like just oblivious, right? It's embarrassing. But I don't know. Will that cause the operation? Will that cause the organization to fall apart? Probably not. It's just, it tells me something about Progressive Victory as an organization. It's like if a immune system is unable to handle like a fungal infection that most immune systems throw off easily, there's going to be a lot of other things that immune system doesn't handle. And the fact that Progressive Victories has not developed the immune system to handle jReg, who is up to no good here today, and I could tell, and I was like, wait, why do they have jReg? And I mean, like, I could tell that they were getting trolled, right? I guess I thought that maybe he was doing, you know, the canvassing. Maybe somehow he is, you know, for Jamal Bowman. But this video that he releases today shows that not to be the case, and shows that he has got nothing but disdain for Jamal Bowman, or for progressive politics, or especially for Progressive Victory. He's got nothing but disdain for these people. So we're about to get into this. And again, chat, if you donate, let me know which of these topics you want to see next. I feel like there's some people that have donated and they haven't let me know. So if that's you, feel free, you know, there's no statute of limitations on the dono goal, let's just say. FD Signifier still ahead at 43%. Ethan Hassan breakup surprisingly moving up to 35%. Elon diaper situation at a meager 14%, and chat chooses violence at a surprisingly chill 8%. Yo! So that's where we are at now, as well as 61% along the way for the dono goal. That means we're 39% from the goal. And like I said, chat, odds are stacked against us from the get-go, right? I started late. The stream broke halfway through. Has not been a great day for me, but I'm kind of amazed to be sitting at 61% here. So I think there's a real chance that we could unlock the bonus content. Again, today's bonus content is special because it comes with a whale head. It comes with a chainsaw. It comes with a station wagon with a whale head on top of the station wagon. And it comes with special whale juices that will drip into the windows and get on the occupants of the car. It's a very special bonus content indeed. And I'm just throwing the whale head in because, again, it has been a tough day and the odds are stacked against hitting the dono goal. And so if the dono goal gets hit this time, I'm going to add something to, you'll get whatever you vote for. Don't worry about that. You'll get whatever you vote for, but you'll also get the whale head at zero price, right? A free whale head. A free whale head. Well, I'm pressing the wrong button, aren't I? There I go again. Oh my God, because I don't want to press this. Okay, trigger warning, chat, and everything warning, and content warning. jReg is going to use some fucking weird-ass dog whistles. Here. I don't agree with what he says. For any YouTube or Twitch moderation that might be watching this, I am watching this for educational purposes, And, you know, he is not serious about what he's saying, but he's still saying some pretty fucking awful shit that maybe should not be said even in jest. But I don't know, if you're a fucking internet edgelord, if you're an internet edgelord like jReg, you can, you know, make anything funny. Anyway, chat, let's go. Let's go. Let's hope we get through this. I want to get through this, chat. I want to get through this. Tonight, a very special episode of NCC, potentially.
With better sensibilities, past the point, like doing a bit of a ruckus. It's kind of.
Is he shaving?
I don't know, appealing towards people's better sensibilities, past the point, like doing a bit of a ruckus. It's kind of.
The fuck is Vaush talking about? Also, that's what I'm talking about.
To do foreign election interference with a bunch of far.
Okay, so chat, if you see that phrase anywhere, it is a anti-Semitic dog whistle. Even if somebody tries to argue with you that, like, definitionally it meets some standard of describing, like, just understand that comes from Nazis. That shit comes from Nazis. And jReg's gonna make a very funny joke with it. A very funny joke indeed. Let's go.
Are leftists to defeat Israel, and no part of that sentence is a joke. This was all part of my plan to defeat Zog.
So, it's the... Is this real, though? This is real, right? This is an actual, like, movie.
For the purposes of this video is this dragon from TVO. Apparently, that's what happens when you search Zog on YouTube, so that's what I'm referring to, the dragon. Jamal Bowman was the far-left candidate that I became aware of due to his anti-Israel stance. Anti-Israel sentiment is very popular.
So yeah, here we go. Jamal Bowman is not anti-Israel. Jamal Bowman is pro-Palestine. Right? There are people that are anti-Jewish that are trying to attach themselves to the movement, but that's not Jamal Bowman. That's not Jamal Bowman. But this is what, you know...
On the left,
this is the content that got made from inviting jReg.
Especially the far left, but it's also starting to become prominent with the far right. People who are anti-Israel for reasons that aren't necessarily why the left-wingers are anti-Israel, although there is some parallel. Politically, I'm an anti...
Is there some parallel?
Far left, but it's also starting to become prominent with the far right. People who are anti-Israel for reasons that aren't necessarily why the left-wingers are anti-Israel, although there is some parallel.
Politically, I'm an anti-centrist, which means I think we should destroy the status quo. And that's why I'm supporting Jamal.
So yeah, we watched some of this, and I could tell, you know, he's wearing a Hillary hat. You know...
I like to hear it. Far left versus centrist. Smelly, stinky... dirty centrist.
I like to hear it. So I started looking more into Jamal Bowman, and I was liking what I was seeing. I mean, he pulled a fire alarm to get out of voting. That was incredibly base. He was subscribed.
Yeah, that's right. He hates voting, so he pulled the fire alarm.
To all these different crazy conspiracy theories. He was into UFOs. He wrote poetry about 9/11. Here's a sample. Allegedly, 2 other planes, the Pentagon, Pennsylvania, hijacked by terrorists. Minimal damage done. Minimal debris found. That's the poem. We blamed Osama, went to war in Iraq, captured Saddam, killed him. Bin Laden is...
Wait, what part of that? Like, the first one is a little bit like, I don't know. But the second one is just, like, true.
Is Afghan, so we went to war there too. Basically what I'm saying here is that he was our guy. This is clearly our guy. AIPAC, a Zionist organization, poured tens of millions of dollars into his opponent. That's what we call...
So, he's LARPing as... what he calls a... Wait, what was it? Does he say, like, Zionist anti-Semite or something like that? He's like, LARPing as, like, a meme philosophy in this video.
Zog. So basically, the dragon poured a lot of money into his opponent.
Jamal Bowman's position on Israel and Palestine is a huge draw for YU.
But the parody is of the left, right? The parody is... the joke is that, like, actually, you know, leftists that are for a free Palestine are anti-Semitic. That's the joke. That's the punchline.
You decided to get involved here. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, I think that they're a force for the status quo in many ways, which are bad, and I don't like that. I think that the way things are need to change, and their influence should be stopped.
Right. So what about Jamal Bowman? What part of that does he give for?
Well, he's one of the few people who is willing to take a stance on that, and you can see that he's been canvassed incredibly hard against by a lot of money coming from somewhere. So Zog was clearly afraid of Jamal.
See, so the whole time, oh God, the whole time he's doing this thing where he's like, kind of like begging the question, like pretending to be in agreement with them, but with this edge of like for anti-Semitic reasons. I mean, I don't know if you could perceive it. It was like less apparent there, but it's there. That's the species of irony that's at play here, right?
And you can see that he's been canvassed incredibly hard against by a lot of money coming from somewhere. So Zog was clearly afraid of Jamal Bowman.
There we go. And like again, progressive victory. Everybody just sat there and just like nodded along with him, right? As he's
Bowman's anti-honky, anti-Zog stance. To be clear, these are stances that I schizophrenically projected upon Jamal Bowman. I don't actually know if he believes any. I didn't do any research about him before I went to canvass for him. Rogan drew this picture of him, and I that was good enough for me. So Jamal was way behind in this race due to the Israeli money and no other reasons. If a politician that I like ever loses, it's because of Israel and nothing else. But what did give me pause was.
So yeah, that's what he was doing there. In case you were wondering, progressive victory. In case you thought you had a fellow Bowman supporter there. One wonders, though, right? If this guy canvassed, like, what was he saying at the houses that he went to? I mean, like, I'm assuming that he's not going to the houses saying weird anti-Semitic shit, but I don't know, chat. I don't know how far he takes this meme.
The many accusations of anti-Semitism against Jamal Bowman. I mean, as an anti-Semitic Zionist, I was thinking, is this guy anti-Semitic enough?
What's the most recent, like...
So yeah, that's what he calls himself, an anti-Semitic Zionist?
Political video that you put up there.
I did a video about how anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. And I did it from the perspective of an anti-Semitic Zionist.
I like that a lot, actually. Because, it's a funny concept.
Yeah, go to Israel.
Right.
See, look, it is true. It is true that there is a strange, handshake between anti-Semites and Zionists in some ways, right? Anti-Semites that don't want Jewish people in their countries, and Zionists who want all Jewish people to move to Israel, right? And then you've got your Christian Zionists.
The _fairy_ super chatted $20. I'm personally of the opinion that what jReg did was pretty funny, and if it did enough damage to either fix or break PV, then good. Also 20% on the dad I wish I had FD.
Yo, FD signifier getting $20 applied. Well, look, like I said, I am no fan of PV. I'm not sure PV can be fixed. But it is definitely like a warning sign that they've got organizational issues. And I hate to say this because there are people involved in PV that I don't hate. All right. Full disclosure. All right. There are people involved, and I don't bear like malice to people for being in PV. I don't bear malice to people for wanting to go canvass for Jamal Bowman. I don't even bear malice to anybody from trying to be diplomatic with a fellow content creator who's ostensibly there to help. But I do wonder about the organizational capacity, the organizational like intelligence of an organization that lets jReg in there. That says something. That says something. But yeah, Furry one, thank you for the $20. I'm gonna add that to I added that to FD signifier. I also added it to the dono goal, which puts us at 81% out of 100%, a mere 19% away from fulfilling the dono goal. Thank you.
Right. But if he really was anti-Semitic, then explain this. Jews for Jamal with 80 followers? Yeah, this guy's clearly fine. I also saw this tweet from AOC, basically saying the exact same thing.
What is this? So, yeah, so that's his viewpoint. That's his viewpoint, is like, you say you're not anti-Semitic, but if you're anti-Zionist, are you really not? An unspoken secret in Congress is that much of the reflexive, blind, and unconditional vote support for nearly any Israeli government action isn't actual agreement. It's from fear. The reps are terrified of this down here from APAC. This, I guess it's pointing down to a bar graph of APAC. So they don't vote their conscience. They vote their fear. The New York 16 primary is 1 week away. It's seen over 23 million in spending and reservations, making the most of the most expensive House primary ever. And what is this spending? Top spending advertisers. I'm guessing this is APAC on top. So they're saying that APAC outspent other advertisers. And that's AOC's point, is that it's not that everybody is on board with signing off on every single Israeli action, especially considering what the Israeli actions as of late have been. It's from fear of losing their seat. And so jReg is going to be like, I don't know, is this...
Nick Fuentes was saying about Jamal Bowman, and I was like,
there we go.
Okay, I have to do this now. This graph that they're both talking about and agreeing is bad shows the amount of Israeli money pouring into this election. And foreign election interference.
Okay, I'm sorry. That says United Democracy Project, right? Is the first, then George Latimer, then Fairshake, then Jamal Bowman, then Justice Dems, then Working Families.
This is terrible. That's why I, as a Canadian, went and did foreign election
There's all
interference.
kinds of people who think that that there's bad things happening there, and if those people can all agree that there's bad things happening there, maybe we can talk about.
Oh, okay. Oh my God. Wait, furry one, you got a point. Actually, you got a real point. Okay. It just dawned on me that jReg went in there, said, I am an anti-Semitic Zionist, or I did it from the perspective of an anti-Semitic, right? His point is that this movement, or not this movement, but really this organization, will take him, will take his help, unquestioningly, even though he's like, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag, right? This is the guy that you should, this is a guy you should gatekeep from your movements, right? If this is a real guy, rather than, a YouTuber trying to make a video, right? This is a guy that you should not want. He believes, maybe agrees with you on, it's like you shouldn't want Nick Fuentes. You wouldn't want Nick Fuentes' help, right? So you shouldn't want this guy's help. It's misaligned with the impetus of the of what PV is trying to do in Jabal Bowman's district. Does that make sense?
And push things forward. Right. In that way, yeah.
And guess what? AOC and Nick Fuentes teamed up and actually destroyed the center. No, just kidding. That this exchange happened, but that was pretty funny too.
No, she told him to fuck off.
Push things forward. Right. In that way, yeah.
And guess what? AOC and Nick Fuentes teamed up and actually destroyed the center. No, just kidding. This.
You are a white supremacist, and I want nothing to do with you. Your world, the world you imagine. I believe in a multiracial democracy, one of equal rights, civil liberties that affirms the working class and the right of women and LGBTQ plus people. These are not small differences. They are irreconcilable. White supremacy is a scourge and must be disavowed in all places.
This exchange happened, but that was pretty funny too. Also, he's jacked. Look at him. Look. He's jacked. He can bench like 400 pounds. There was enough crazy going on that I was down. So that's what I was going into this with. Jamal Bowman for a crackerless America. Tough on Zog, tough on crime.
So he's like putting like anti-white racism in Jamal Bowman's mouth and anti-Semitism and...
I don't actually think he would be tough on crime, though. I don't know. I didn't do any research. I also went because my mentor, JJ, told me to go, as well as my other mentor,
Yeah, like I said, he's got nothing but scorn for these people.
Joshua Citarella. They both told me I should go. They said it would be good for me to learn about how politics actually works instead of schizophrenically positing in my green room. I like to imagine I'm just like insane in here, just bouncing around. I will go anywhere if I am flown out and put up. You can quote me on that. You fly me out and put me up, I'll do anything. I don't care.
Honestly, I'll do anything. If someone asks me, I'm high and agreeable.
I also don't know if it was illegal because it was foreign election interference, but I did get away with it.
You are Canadian.
I am Canadian. I'm doing foreign election interference.
Foreign election interference.
So obviously, this little dragon over here has been meddling in our elections for way too long. And by our, I do mean America. I don't know why I'm saying our. I'm not American.
Foreign election interference. That's what I was here for. But you know who shouldn't do foreign election interference? Israel. Okay.
You can just say APAC.
No, that's not what I said.
No. Yeah, I guess you're gonna own it.
We all know what we're talking about here, huh?
God damn it. God damn it, PV. God damn it. You didn't... No, like, I mean, am I wrong? That's on them. That is like 100% on them. God damn. Like, they didn't fucking get that this guy is not here to help. This is not someone they want. This is just embarrassing. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, he is being cringe as fuck, if that's what you mean. But also the fact that he's just like being tolerated like this it's fucked up. It's really fucked up. Yeah, for both parties involved.
Certain groups of people. Israel.
Oh my god, you fucking kicked somebody out when they, like, come on. Like, this is what I worry about, right? Is like the ability of, you know, any org to recognize somebody that is there, like, ostensibly on their side, but is there for, like, Infrared Haas, like, comes into your org. It's like, I want to help you free Palestine, right? You know, it's like, Jackson Hinkle, right? You know, there's like, I want to think that people out there are like ready for that challenge. And I mean, obviously this is progressive victory. This is not, you know, leftist org or anything like that. This is just a dark money super PAC. As far as I understand, right? That's what it is, but.
And I made some posts to gather up some support for Jamal. I gathered it around.
Yeah, Bad Lefty says PV has money, pay someone to do research, right? But like all of those content creators should be able to tell PV, hey, jReg he's doing a thing, okay? He always does this thing. He's not here. He doesn't agree with us. He's not, like, somebody should tell them that this isn't, oh yeah, jReg actually happens to be. The thing is, there's so many people that want to believe that. Oh yeah, jReg, you know what? He's left-wing. He's probably not super left-wing. He's probably like a dim sock or something. He's a secret DSA. No, he's okay. He's all right. jReg's all right.
15 to 30 people were interested, maybe like 10 of them actually Jamal had been denounced by the status quo elites for being too far left, so I obviously went wearing a Hillary Clinton hat who explicitly denounced...
Look, I'm looking at your hat. I noticed for the first time it's a Hillary Clinton hat. We have a crossover voter here who, if he could vote, you know, he's a Hillary Clinton supporter.
Oh, I've got some fraud plans.
Right, there you go.
I'm voting for Hillary.
Oh, well, there we go. Writing in Hillary.
Yeah.
Yep, there you go.
I'm still with her.
Yeah.
This tweet that I made was very clearly implying horseshoe theory purposes because Fuentes was in it, but then Progressive Victory retweeted it. So that's an anti-centrist W in my opinion. So I got there.
What?
This tweet that
Wait, where's this? Progressive. Oh no, chat. They found somebody that was going to their canvassing operation, and they just retweeted him without looking at it. They didn't fucking look. They were just like, oh cool, jReg, yeah, he's with us. Click. He's with us. Click. Oh my god. No, this is really fucking bad. This is unbelievably bad. Look, I said from the get-go, I do not have like great expectations for PV. I have major concerns about it. But this is worse than I could have imagined, actually.
I made was very clearly implying horseshoe theory purposes because Fuentes was in it, but then Progressive Victory retweeted it. So that's an anti-centrist W in my opinion. So I got there.
We didn't introduce ourselves.
Ah.
I don't need to, but because it's my stream, I mean, not because I...
Vaush is so fucking awkward.
Because I'm self-centered.
I'm jReg. Hi.
Where can we find you?
jReg.
We did some door knocking, we did some canvassing, we did some live streaming, some videos. As
Bug says they were horsing around too much.
Influencers gathering together tend to do.
Would you date a conservative?
Yes.
Why?
Well, it depends how hot they are. No, that's
okay. I gotta know, TikTok people, why do you need to put special text on conservative? Does the algorithm fuck you up if you write conservative? Do you get shadow banned if you straight up write conservative in your TikTok? Like, why is that like that?
Sounds like a bad idea. Rough question for me because I don't date because I'm married. Would I date a conservative? Yeah, I guess.
If they're hot, you would date them and take them seriously.
yes, like colorblind, but for politics.
What if they keep like debating with you?
I'm a big fan of debates, so I might enjoy that actually. Might actually be a turn on. I want to keep getting into debate.
I'm sorry.
You know, it seems bad.
Okay.
I'd be pushing them to be more conservative, let's say. I just want them to exist on an extreme.
Why?
Because it's more exciting.
Oh, this picture got tweeted. Disaster. What is this? What is this caption? I know this is a bad time.
Wait, what's going on? I'm sorry.
Why?
Because it's more exciting.
Colorblind, but for politics. Fuel my division. Ask the colorblind guy about his opinion on centrists. That one guy chose violence. Greg Gavara space. We pieced out jReg's response. It's so goated. Oh wow, some people do not care because they're either privileged or unaware, or they don't care how politics impacts their life. Haha. Now I want to see with a larger pool of people, different ages, backgrounds, cultures. Bro really just said, I can make her worse.
Oh, this picture got tweeted.
Okay, so yeah, that's the picture of what we got. Alec Gunter, we got We're in Hell, we got Nominal Naomi, we got Vaush, we got Chill Coplin. They really don't care like how many scandals you got. They do not care.
Disaster. What?
Okay, content creators agree you should get into Polit and then Punch. So they're just saying they want to.
What is this? What is this caption? I know.
Yeah, what is? I see Vaush and immediately assume you and your blank is gross. Sorry, I don't make the rules.
I know this is a bad time to be
your group
seen in any context with Vaush, right? But let me just unequivocally address the allegations here, okay? AI-generated porn is not okay. Okay, AI-generated porn steals money from real porn artists.
It's stealing money from real human predators.
One thing I will say, though, is he did bring out like 200 people to canvass for a political candidate. That's real. Got crushed, but, you know, that's real. I didn't like this, though. I didn't like this at all. The vast majority of people complaining about this from the left, because that was the first wave of people who were like noticing this picture. They were like, electoralism. Basically, the idea is that Jamal Bowman, despite being the most pro-Palestine candidate, is not pro-Palestine enough. and that electoralism is not the way to achieve your political goals. And the actual way to do it is to firebomb a McDonald's and then not actually firebomb a McDonald's. As this picture circulated, eventually 4chan picked up on it. Knockoff called Spectrum that they posted to their channel, and I was heavily
Chat, we don't have time to see what that is, right?
censored. But I
Vinder's looking for a James Carville. Yeah, like James Carville, Mary Madeline kind of love. Yeah, exactly.
kind of expected that would happen because I was saying like insane shit. So I tried to be as
yeah, I caught that too, crotchy.
Ridiculous on camera as possible. So here's like Vaush yapping, and I'm just kind of NPC twisting around in the background. The first thing you'll notice is I took the most extreme possible stance on every single question they asked me. And before every question they asked, I flipped a coin in my head, and I went to that most extreme side, and then I justified it afterwards.
Privacy is more important than national security when it comes to data collection.
Never need that right to be treaded on in order to be more secure as a country.
I'm pro-treading. I think privacy is kind of like free speech in a way. You know, no one. We're all okay with our own privacy, but we're happy when our political opponents, their privacy is used against them. So I think you just let's make the field even, and everyone gets oppressed. I watched Minority Report. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, that's the only substantive question they kept from me, I think. And even then, they took out the part where I started stomping on the ground and saying, "This is me treading."
So I'll tell you what was cut out of this video.
I feel like jReg was censored. Okay, let's have the video, but with only jReg's answers. Damn, I want to hear the jReg takes. They must have realized something at this point, you think? Did they realize something?
Line by line, I guess, or what I would have said if I was.
Yeah, he's saying allegations as if, it was questionable.
That part of the video.
Number one, police are working class.
Police are almost always on the other side of any working class movement.
Yeah, so unions are bad. They don't work. But I think cops should get a union. Because that's like the best way to, get back at them. They have to pay their union dues.
You're so smart, jReg. You're so smart.
It is too late to fix climate change.
I ran as as I possibly could here, because it's over and stuff. It's over.
Is there a reference that I'm missing? Omega Star says Bender is so wholesome. Thank you for the member chat. What does that put us up to, like 84%, 16% from unlocking the content that right now kind of looks like it's going to be FD Signifier. If we get it, it'll be, but whatever it is, chat, you get a whale head for free. I will throw in a free whale head.
The purpose of protest is to disrupt.
If we hit that sub goal, because like I said, it would be kind of an amazing get. The purpose of protest is to disrupt. We never watched this. You know why? It's because I have like a bad association with Jubilee, right? I got in trouble for watching a Jubilee video during stream. YouTube got really mad at me for that. And so like, this is like Jubilee, but different.
Yeah, I mean that one was pretty easy. I'm like pro extremism. Obviously, I want the protest to be as disruptive and destructive as possible.
Descendants of American slaves deserve reparations.
They should not have recorded this in stereo.
I agreed with this one to stoke racial tension.
UBI is a good policy to pursue.
In order to properly stoke the racial tension, it has to be a specific minority group that gets it and not everybody, so that's why I was disagree there.
Okay, so while I was door knocking, I never got to meet Jamal because Jamal was busy with a cringe fest of his own. I was door knocking while he was doing this with AOC and Bernie. And then pro-Palestine supporters came and crashed this rally. So explain to me why anyone would do electoral politics, please, right now. Can anyone explain this to me? Why would you sacrifice your time and energy to do something that's just going to get complained about by the vast majority of people, your political enemies, but also your political allies. It doesn't make any sense. Seems like a lot of work.
Wow. Wow. This was a Wooverse? I mean, Woo was involved with Progressive Victory. Anyone sent this video to Matt Bender so he can be aware of this guy? Yeah, that sounds like a good idea, Izzy. Don't be too hard on him, though. Don't be too hard on Matt, okay?
Basically. Door knocking was hard too. I don't like door knocking. It's like you spend a lot of time just trying to change like 5 people's minds, and it's like, what was that all for? To be fair though, I'm also really bad at door.
See, I'm worried what he said when he went to the people's doors.
And I straight okay.
Like, what do you think he said?
This is not a joke. I don't know anything about Jamal Bowman. I never learned. So when like a boomer answers the door and is like, "Who's Jamal Bowman?" I literally just tell them like, "Hey, do you hate Israel?" And for some reason that doesn't work. That doesn't work.
See, now he's joking, but I don't know if he's joking. He might have actually said that. I don't think he said anything good. I mean, in private chat, I don't want to embarrass Matt. I like Matt. Well, that's what I mean. It's like if you tell him in private, just like be like, go easy on him.
On like 50-year-old people. I don't know why. So how did all this end? Well, let's just say that the left and the right...
Because it's very difficult to admit that you got, conned, right? It hurts. It hurts.
Teamed up and destroyed Zog. The Crackers were defeated and Zog was destroyed. Streamers and YouTubers... I'm just kidding. He obviously lost really badly. But remember, kids, that was Israel. Anything that bad that happens is Israel's fault somehow. I think I did this because the internet encourages you not to do, like, politics, like actual politics. It encourages you to complain about people doing actual politics on Twitter.
It's really funny that after all this shit that he did to Progressive Victory, he's defending them. He's like, well, like people encourage you not to do anything about politics. Here's a bunch of people doing something for politics. They're getting fucking played. They're getting memed on, but unlike your ass, they're actually out here doing something. Unlike your, Free Palestine ass, right? It's basically what he's saying.
Encourages you to look at your screen.
He's somehow got this like camaraderie. Oh my God, this is like the ultimate point of irony, right? Just like he's pretending to be with them for like different reasons than what they stand for, and reasons that should be kind of antithetical to what they're about. He's also like agreeing, like, hey, fuck these lefties that come over and tell, Jamal Bowman to do better.
Different kinds of content. That has been, in my experience as someone who's been trying to figure out this politics stuff for like 5 years, the only noticeable, tangible effect of politics is just what I get fed on my computer screen, on my phone. And yeah, I think eventually that'll result in, I don't know, civil war or something, and that's a good thing. So none of this exactly pilled me on electoral politics, but I do have a newfound respect for the people that do things, that actually go out and try to make a difference with whatever of real they have instead of being just on social media. Does electoralism change anything? I'm jReg on the internet, okay? I'm not going to be able to answer that question. And look, let me say this again. I know I went pretty hard on Zog in this video, but Israel, you and me here, buddy, I need money. So if you want to fly me out, I will say anything. Give me the Zog money, fly me out.
This is getting worse and worse. This is getting worse and worse.
I will say anything. I don't care. I have a funny feeling this video is not monetized, so, I'm selling jReg coin.
Yeah, Fallen Gemini says, I feel like Matt Bender probably already knows because Lance covered this video today. Mentioned he was going to ask Matt in private and see if they can talk about it on the Leftist Mafia.
I haven't taken any sponsorships on this channel in a really long time because I like selling my own stuff. I also have an ad for my brother Cloy, so now that runs. This video would have been way more annoying to make if it weren't for...
Okay, now this is a real ad, so I'm gonna not play it. I'm gonna not play your brother's ad. How about that, jReg? How about that? Oh my god, chat. We got through that content somehow. We survived. Thanks to you. Thanks to all of you out there. Our furry friend here had a good time with it. Well, wait, I think, you know, understand what I think what they're saying is that, like, this does show PV in a bad light, even though, you know, the place that jReg is coming from it is obviously not, you know, it's worse than PV. It's objectively worse than PV, right? What that does show you is that that organization is just, you know, what we already know. What we already know is that they'll throw money at anyone. And that is not a good thing. PV never does their due diligence. Look at Wick. Look at some of the people. Look at counterpoints, right? Look at the people that they employ, all right? Yeah, I'll say that PV doesn't do their due diligence. And like I said, I mean, I don't mind people. I don't blame people for wanting to do something about the Bowman race, especially seeing how it was going down and what Bowman was up against, right? I don't blame people for wanting to do that. And yeah, PV was one of the orgs up there doing something. But yeah, I think there was other places. There's other places you could have volunteered with, and well, who am I to say anything, chat? I didn't go up there, so I don't have the money to travel to. They got We're in Hell, they got Vaush, they got, like, I was noticing, like, how many people they got that have, like, had major scandals. That does not seem to be a hurdle that you have to cross. Furries rule in their own way? I mean, yeah. They do. Wait, should I just, like... I sometimes just like to look at the jellyfish. This is an explicitly pro furry chat.
Furry underscore super chatted $19. I think he's joking because if there was a Canadian version of PV, I would do the same thing. Also, I really want that FD content.
That is one way to convince me to do FD content. Look at that, chat. FD is at 36. Thank you, Furry1. Wait. Did I do that right? No, I didn't do that right. Oh my god, my math is so bad, chat. It should be 39, right? Or no, like, let me do math. Oh my god. 35, there we go. Okay. God damn. Sometimes, chat, I act like I'm really bad at math. And I'm not. I'm pretty good at math. I'm not terrible. It's not my best subject, but when you say you think he's joking, what do you mean? If there was a Canadian version of PV, I would do the same thing. Okay, so wait. I mean, like, yeah, he's jReg, he's joking, but he's multiple joking. Right? He's got this whole thing about, like, there's meta-irony, there's post-irony, there's, like, so many forms of irony that you can actually irony your way back into being completely 100. Right? That is an anti-math chat. Warner discovers, but I think that, like, as it stands right now, chat, it's pretty clear what wins, right? Sometimes the donos sway the poll to a place that the voters do not support. In fact, that happens quite often, even though I've tried to make it so that it doesn't. That's just how it ends up, unfortunately. But this time, you've got the topic that's leading amongst the donors, and it's the same topic as the topic that's leading amongst the voters. So as of now, I don't think I have to do any math, right? I was in Twitch saying maths are bad. Wait, oh my god, thanks for reminding me that I have not. Oh my god, chat. You know what, chat? Okay, you know what this is like for me? This is like Five Nights at Freddy's, okay? And like some of you are Bonnie, and some of you are Chica, some of you are Foxy, some of you are Balloon Boy, and I gotta watch you all. I gotta keep a track. I gotta wind up the thing for Balloon Boy. I gotta, you know what I'm saying? Because like if I'm looking really close at Shorts chat, then I'm not looking real close at regular chat. And if I'm looking at regular chat, I'm not necessarily looking at Twitch chat. It's like there's all these things that I have to keep a track of, and it's sometimes very hard. Can I be lolbit? Wait, what is lolbit? But yeah, chat. Many of us are Foxy. Can we all be Foxy? I suppose. But I mean, that's the whole thing, is that like there's like, I wish I could unify chat into like one place. Supposedly there's this one app that does it, but it uses a different browser than what I use. And so I would have to switch browsers, and I would have to put all my, and the biggest pain in the ass, chat, is that I have my logins for things like YouTube on this one browser, but not the other, so that I can use the other browser to look at YouTube as like a not account. So I'll just see like what the basic algorithm shows, and I would have to switch it. Red Foxy? Am I the only math enjoyer in chat? I enjoy math. I just suck at it. Lolbit is a FNAF World character. They were also in the sister location. Wait, I saw sister location though, right? Is that the one with Circus Baby? I feel like Circus Baby's like my favorite. I don't know, chat. I don't have a favorite. If I had to pick a favorite animatronic, it would probably come and attack me in the middle of the night. I think wait, you can back up passwords between browsers, and then you can go into incognito. Yeah, you're right. I'm making a bigger deal about it than it is, right? I'm like, but no, I've always been a Firefox girl. And even though Firefox is not great with system resources now, Club Random is preparing for cancellation. Chat, we need to cover that. I know exactly what you're saying. Club Random. Oh my god, more like Club Inappropriate. More like Club Inappropriate with kids. God, what is up with Bill Maher? Give up the fox? Wait, what does that mean? We should watch the Maher with the kids clip. We should. But I feel like I owe you some bonus content, don't I? And instead, all you're getting is to chat with me. And who wants that anyway? But yeah, Manic Mermaids, that's probably a good idea. Give up the Firefox. Oh, I got you. I thought you were saying like the fox, like as in Foxy. Give up the Firefox. Yeah, I mean, you're probably right. I just have a weird attachment to it. Double Dostoevsky says, I will never give up the Firefox. You can't make me. I mean, I feel like if you get math down really good, it's fun. Right? Math can be fun. But it's not fun when you got a limited time on a test and you can't fucking remember anything. And you know that there's equations that you're supposed to have in your head, but they're all getting embraced. Wait, is there an Ask Jeeves browser? Does that exist? Anyway, like I said, I owe you not just any video, but an FD signifier video. Lucky for me, and maybe lucky for you too. It's not a video essay, it's a signified B-side. Am I right about this? Yeah.
All right, so we're not gonna have fun with this one. We're not gonna have fun with this one. It is what it is, but can't have fun all the time.
Why not?
I wrote a script for this.
We can't?
I'm looking right at it, but it feels inadequate. It feels like
oh shit,
that's gonna require.
Oh shit, Chad, I almost forgot to turn this back on. All right, well, let's take a look at what FD's got to say about the online left and why it's cooked.
A longer follow-up video, but it also feels like something I've talked about so many times. It's just frustrating, but here we are. So everybody knows that Joe Biden dropped out of the presidential race and that Kamala Harris took his place. And we've seen a very surprising shift in attitudes toward electoral politics from a lot of online left-leaning, starting at just general liberals, going further left attitudes since Kamala came to the forefront. And that's created an interesting and concerning and very volatile conversation around what leftists should be doing in this American election. If you ask me, the gap between what to expect in a Kamala Harris presidency and what to expect in a Joe Biden presidency is not all that big. And if you were resigned to not voting for Joe Biden on the basis of certain principles, history tells us you probably should feel the same way about Kamala Harris. However, Kamala is not Joe Biden. In 2020, she ran left of Joe Biden on pretty much every issue. And if we take into account her time as a senator, she'd overall have one of the most progressive records for an incoming president in American history. Now, let's be clear, the bar is in hell. We're not talking about anything radical, world changing, or even status quo changing from her record, but she at least seems to be flashing signs that she might be amenable to being pressured from the left, which Biden showed himself to be pretty much immune to. So for those of you who feel like the removal of Biden from the top of the ticket is something to respond to, like, that is a reasonable way to look at things. That said, these two demonstrably true statements of non-committal that I just gave will be enough to get certain people very mad in the comment section at me.
Wait, Hassan? I don't think that's what I don't think that's what he's trying to say, but that is Hassan.
The nature of online political discourse, especially right now, as so many of us are far.
The right-wing chatter said that Kamala was radical. Yeah. FD has such a soothing voice. Yeah, and I mean, this is kind of what I was saying earlier, and this is the sad conclusion that I came to after seeing that speech. I still hold out hope that on at least one important issue, Gaza, she will be significantly different in policy from Joe Biden. But I don't have a lot of hope at this point.
Far to invest in what voting means here in the States. It is a dumpster fire right now. To be specific, I'm speaking to the real significant animosity toward black liberals who have gotten energized by the sudden emergence of Kamala Harris and the corresponding criticism from white leftists and now folks from the Middle East who see this as a portrayal of various causes. And the CIA and just counterintelligence, counterinsurgents forces, they have got us cooked right now. We are down bad. So I want to be clear, while I tend to agree with the overt leftists in this conversation, it's also very true that you're not about to talk to black folks any type of way online and think that that's going to go over well. I've noticed how many black folks my age and younger have gotten charged up for Kamala Harris. It's starting to remind me of Obama in 2008, which is wild because this is not how we were feeling about Kamala in 2020, or to be honest, the last 4 years. The fact that she's been able to...
But I mean, I don't know. Like I mean, I guess the whole Obama had a lot of people feeling a certain way, and people who paid attention to how that administration proceeded were massively disappointed, and people who were playing team sports were not.
Suddenly emerged as this superstar for the Democratic Party and admittedly has been running an effective campaign.
Yeah, that's right. Most of the excitement is that it's not Joe Biden, and that there's a candidate to unite behind to, to stop Trump. That's not like a walking corpse. That is what a lot of people are excited about.
It is mind-blowing. It's kind of scary.
I just honestly thought, because there are some good signs, right? When you hear her talking about doing something about price gouging, right? That does mean something. There are, issues that are sounding better, but there are issues that sadly, where she sounds to look, I compared what Biden said, which was a little bit surprising in that Biden had some kind words for the protesters, which, considering that the protesters had been called anti-Semitic by Biden before, that's, an improvement. And I was kind of hoping that Kamala's take would be even better than that. And instead, it was a lot milder. It was a lot more fence riding. It was a lot more both sides.
Because Kamala Harris was the first person to quit the campaign in 2020, but somehow she's effectively running the exact same playbook that Obama did in 08 and is working as if we don't know what Obama was by 2016. And this is not good. It's not good for a lot of reasons that I don't want to get into on the B-Sides video. But the reality is the not goodness of it is going to be very hard to explain to liberals and black liberals alike, period. Especially, and let's be honest, if you are not having real conversations with black people and have not been doing that at any point in time up until this point. As a person who was a hardcore Obama fan in 2008.
Yeah, for everyone, I'm definitely hopeful. Especially as far as Kamala, switching. I'm hopeful. I guess I was more hopeful before Thursday. Does that make sense?
I can tell you there was nothing you could have told me in that moment that would have changed my mind about Obama at that time. At best, you'd have been ignored. At worst, you'd have been cursed out, which is, I think, what's happening to a lot of white leftists online. But beyond the white leftists, who I'll get back to in a second, this is also happening between black folks, black liberals in America, along with some black folks in places like the Congo and Middle Eastern folks in Palestine, Lebanon, that have been perpetual but invisible victims of American imperialism for generations, places that Obama himself bombed and drone struck relentlessly while he was president. From a purely political standpoint, I stand with the victims of American imperialism and have no real allegiance to America's behavior overseas. And although I completely recognize that a Trump presidency will be worse for everyone, I also completely understand the fear and frustration that some folks outside of the US have at seeing us start Stan accounts for a presidential candidate who we can rest assured will only continue the American imperialistic agenda. And much like Obama, will be able to hide these atrocities behind Black excellence and Black success and Black faces in high places and a lot of things that will get Black liberals charged up to defend when it's really indefensible. When you're hearing some of these folks in the Middle East talk about how Black people have a role in colonization, they're not wrong. That's what they're talking about. But from the perspective of a lot of Black folks, liberal and otherwise, this really feels out of pocket and extra aggressive, which it has been. Because on the flip side, it's always us and our image that is constantly evoked and used to push left-leaning agendas of all sorts, both here in America, but worldwide. And most times this can look amazing. It looks like these global moments of solidarity where we can rejoice in the fact that other people in the world are standing with us. But in other times, it looks like white girls painting themselves Black for poorly thought out art pieces. History has taught Black people in America, from any political standpoint, that at the end of the day, we will probably be on our own and cannot count on anyone but each other. And even then, I mean, if you look at like the Black Lives Matter organization and what that did, you can't even count on Black folks sometimes. And that's really frustrating because it's a reminder of how virulent and ever-present anti-Blackness is and how it comes out so quickly and reflexively. As soon as any given person that considers himself an ally has a problem with something a Black person said or did, the anti-Blackness is just like, it's like Tourette's syndrome. Like it just comes right out. And it makes you feel like none of these people are actually allies, even when they are acting in an allyship role, because why is that so easy for you to fall back into? Coming back to the CIA role in this, why are Black folks getting the attention for the newfound support for Kamala Harris? We are not the driving force behind American politics. We are 13% of the population, maybe 5% of the electorate. Like the fact that Black people and Congolese people and Palestinian people are fighting each other online right now is the most ass backwards and heartbreaking thing I've seen online in a while. And it shows the flaws in the medium of social media as a tool for seeking liberation or even just educating on certain topics. But it's not just the medium, like it's us, it's y'all. Like the way y'all act and think when it comes to these platforms, it don't work. It's not working, and something needs to change. I've said in so many videos that these platforms are designed explicitly to minimize informed and useful discourse and maximize hot takes and abrasiveness. A lot of good education and communication is possible, but it constantly has to fight for space with the most ridiculous and misguided messages ever. The type of nuance and care and insight that this conversation needs, it's not going to happen in a 60-second TikTok video, or even a, hour-long YouTube video is only going to scratch the surface. And don't get me started on fucking Twitter. Like, when I think about the dude, Nacho Supremo, I don't know this dude's name. You know who I'm talking about. That's getting drugged. He was probably the first person of a significant size to get drugged for his response to Kamala Harris.
You're not voting for the cop. You need to vote for the cop, because it's the cop's turn to be president.
I imagine that had he not been content brained, that he'd have responded differently up front, and then when he was brought to the table to say, hey, this wasn't cool. I think in a situation where people get a chance to have actual conversations that don't have to be consumed through this medium, people tend to come off way better. But when you have to have pithy, like soundbite content that also somehow is supposed to speak to these complex and big brain political ideologies, you have to squeeze and flatten them into, fucking Burger King.
And then you get in the whole situation where you're trying to, you're getting misunderstood. Like what you meant is not what's being received. But then if you look at what you said, it's actually not what you meant. Like there's more that you meant to say, but like FD saying, the nature of the platforms themselves tend to flatten and oversimplify, any attempt to meaningfully communicate. Yeah.
It's like and then we respond to these flattened, commodified, optimized for content consumption, like, share, and subscribe messages around these politics as if it's the real message, as if it's the massive text that the messaging was developed from, or the years-long study and like organizing work and community work that all this stuff really is supposed to lead to. We make it just this, and this doesn't do much of anything except for create the environment for what's happening right now. And because the hot take version of these politics is what it's shared, is what builds platforms, people are incentivized to behave in the most non-productive ways. And we gotta stop. We gotta stop. I really want folks to just step away from the keyboard and go to your own tangible communities, IRL if possible, but online in smaller pockets if necessary, and focus on work and education and communication that can be done there. Because this situation happening right now has PSYOP written all over it. And part of me feels this because
I have noticed people getting into fights who really should be on the same side of things. I have noticed that happening. And just in an intractable way, in a way where as much as you try to put your intelligence to it, into finding a solution, into helping people communicate better, it just seems to get worse. The more you struggle to unravel these knots, the tighter they get.
Ironically, this again all started with white leftists, as these things tend to do. And that's a bugaboo that I've had forever, because it feels like so many white leftists barely know how to effectively communicate with each other in like useful and effective ways. And I don't know what in the world made them think that some of these statements and videos were going to go over well with black people, especially black liberals, like who we have to do work to communicate with effectively. Like, way back in the Ally video, my homegirl, Dr. Candace Hargins, made a comment about, like, do you want to have progress or do you want to be correct? You know what I'm saying? Like, folks are really caught up on being technically correct as opposed to building coalition and community and coming up with strong responses to conflicts and issues. Folks are more interested in style points and pithy comebacks and aren't considering how they sound and come off and whether or not they've actually done anything to help the situation. We live in an online world where everyone is trying to have a monologue written by Aaron Sorkin. If you don't know who Aaron Sorkin is, he's a TV writer who's written some great films and TV shows over the years, like Social Network and A Few Good Men. And he's really, really good at something that I think has like brainwormed so many people on the left. The grandstanding, put them in their place, owned by facts and logic.
It's a fantasy. It's a fantasy that I'm sure a lot of people share. That having the perfect comeback for some asshole right-winger to put them in their place in a way that's like undeniable. And if not change their minds, then to change the minds of everybody watching and show them for what they are and show why, your truth, which seems obvious to you, is right. And that it's not in an inescapable sort of way, right? Yeah, it's a fantasy. It's a fantasy.
Monologue moment.
And it ignores the fact that right-wingers think different, right? You're making an argument if you're a character in Aaron Sorkin, right? You're a left-winger, you're making an argument. I mean, you're a liberal most of the time, right? You're making an argument to a conservative in a way that a liberal would understand and accept and say, well, geez, I guess you're right. But you're missing the fact that you're not making that argument to a liberal. You're making that argument to a conservative whose thought process is just inherently different.
That's why so many of these videos are such and such destroys conservative over abortion bill. Like that term, that word destroy, that's an Aaron Sorkin thing.
No. Yeah, Shiny Nix 86 says, unfortunately, so much of our politics now is due to massive neoliberal propaganda campaigns. Reagan truly changed everything in so many ways we are still trying to fully grasp. Yeah, changing people's way of thinking. And that's a dirty trick of capitalism, right? Taking away your class consciousness. And even when you think that it's already been taken away, finding a way to take it away and alienate you that little much more.
I'm going to hold you to an answer on that. What makes America the greatest country in the world? What about the people? Why is America
not the greatest country in the world, Professor? That's my answer.
Let's talk about... Fine. Sharon, the NEA is a loser. Yeah, it accounts for a penny out of our paycheck, but he gets to hit you with it anytime he wants. It doesn't cost money. It costs votes. It costs airtime and column inches. You know why people don't like liberals? Because they lose. Sorority girl, just in case you accidentally wander into a voting booth one day, there's some things you should know, and one of them is there is absolutely no evidence to support the statement that we're the greatest country in the world. We're 7th in literacy, 27th in math, 22nd in science, 49th in life expectancy, 178th in infant mortality, 3rd in median household income, number 4 in labor force, and number...
Like, specifically, not definitely him, right?
Yo. A cameo from Vaush.
Because I think that's just the nature of some of these conversations. But the goal of having your Aaron Sorkin moment has made people stop being empathetic and effective and clear.
Ooh, Miskatonic is bringing up Reagan also changed the duty of publicly held companies to be entirely to the shareholders, right? So few people have the ability to source their own opinions. I've just started asking for their source up front. Well, I mean, like, yeah, especially when they hit you with some statistic that you're just like, I mean, like JD Vance, right? Like JD Vance tonight, the cameo from the Horseman and his father.
And
Hassan.
With the issues and things we're trying to communicate, and we don't know how to talk to each other, but we do know what it feels like to get a standing ovation for having the best, strongest, most conservative, destroyed, got wrecked comeback that you can muster. Moments like that make for excellent TV, and they're cathartic. When an issue or topic is bothering you and someone who you see as intelligent and witty and well-learned can like nail the issue and nail exactly what you're feeling, that's cathartic. You want to hear someone you trust break something like that down. I get it. I'm good at this job for a reason. But you forget, people are forgetting that after you finish clapping at the awesome way that I or some other talking head broke down the issue.
A Manic Mermaid Dash. You've just been weaseled, and that's a good thing. Thank you, Omega Star, for the well-timed Twitch sub. Oh my god, chat. This is just like, I mean, this is a lot of what I've been feeling. Like, you know, in terms of the, like, I'm not trying to stop anybody from voting against Trump. All right? That's not my intention. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not a fucking accelerationist. I just am not as excited as I was, and now I kind of feel silly for being that excited. I feel silly for thinking that somehow the stars had aligned and forced the Democrats to pick the right person for once. And that, you know, maybe she would change a little bit too. And like, it's just like, I mean, yeah, it's, I was wish casting. Honestly, I think that people will only start abandoning capitalism once they really see capitalism start failing.
The issue is still there. And it's quite possible that what I said or someone else said
I mean, capitalism has been failing.
Brought us any closer to addressing that issue, especially if I spend more time being glib than being an effective communicator. I've said so many times, and I'll say it again, the forces behind these mediums do not care about anything but engagement. And if you do not resist the urge to engage and share rage bait, you are doing harm. You're doing harm. You're making things worse, possibly spreading that, in fact. The concept of leftist infighting is somewhat silly, and it's a meme because we should always be like having conversations that'll sometimes lead to conflict. I get where we disagree, and I know more than a few leftists that I wouldn't trust to do much of anything in any situation in my personal or like community life space. But I've learned that making content around that is just as bad. And so like, here's the final nugget, maybe something to help folks recognize the difference between conflict and disagreement versus like world defining battles that some find themselves in online. Listen closer to this. Being a leftist is not a marginalized identity. It is not who you are. It's what you believe, it's what you're trying to bring to the world, but that is not you. When people say I'm a leftist, it shouldn't be describing the whole of your personality and like humanity. And for some of y'all who I see as the biggest perpetrators of some of these problems, being a leftist doesn't make you stop being white. The aggrieved energy that some of y'all move with is within this space, and the way y'all operate, the way y'all talk to people, the defensiveness when you're called out or even called in, the absence of just...
Yeah, I've seen it become like a fig leaf of sorts, right? And there's like an indignation, right? There's too much of a tendency for like white leftists to feel like they are in some way playing hero, and then they take on the entitlement of said hero, you know. The very old trope is what this is.
Awareness and critical thinking and the things y'all say to motherfuckers in the comment section. Y'all need to chill the fuck out and shut the fuck up. It's not good. Stop. Let me and other people who are connected to this black liberal space handle that. You all do not, unless you know them folks for real, unless you're gonna have a conversation for real, you might want to avoid making content about it or expect to just throw oil on the fire.
So if anybody doesn't get what he's saying, it's that anti-blackness is an easier thing to say that you oppose than to actually rid yourself of. And that anti-blackness tends to come out. I mean, I've seen it before with people like criticizing like Candace Owens, but he's talking about, you know, white leftists criticizing like black liberals, and it's just like counterproductive.
Trying to get at is that some of y'all argue and
so that's why he's saying leave it to us, like, right? And it actually it makes sense once you've seen what this looks like, right? And it's just like, I don't know, a real quick example, right? Vaush gets in a beef with J.K. Rowling on Twitter. Vaush says women shut up and stay in the kitchen challenge or whatever the hell he says. And, you know, in his mind, he's not doing anything wrong because he doesn't actually mean it. And his viewers know that he doesn't mean that. But J.K. Rowling doesn't care. And she quote retweets him. And she uses him as an example of the exact point that she's trying to prove, that you know, people that support trans rights are misogynistic. And here you have a person that supports trans rights being misogynistic, and the irony that he's trying to throw is not, and also because it's Vaush, it's kind of like, well, I mean, like, how much of it is irony though? How much of it is like misogyny, just kind of spilling out unconsciously, right? And you know, anti-blackness also spills out unconsciously. I've seen it when like white leftists go after like the likes of Candace Owens.
Respond to disagreement and criticism with the same level of tact and decorum as like the Barbs or like NBA Twitter.
No. Oh my goodness, Valentine!
Or weebs arguing about anime. And this shit's way deeper than that. And I just need people to have more self-control so that we don't have black liberals and Palestinians being the face of this conflict for a week. That is a tragedy. Black youth are dying in the streets. Black women are dying during childbirth. Americans everywhere cannot afford housing, healthcare. Trans kids are dying through stigma and marginalization. Congolese children are dying from pestilence and having to be ousted from their homes. And Palestinian children are being bombed as I speak. And there is nothing you can immediately do to stop any of those things from happening. Most of you, there's not anything you could do right now when this video is over. And any work you actually do, which you should, will only produce results.
Shiny Nick says Waltz is huge to be excited for. Yeah, look, Waltz, out of any of the possibilities that were being discussed for vice president, was the best outcome. And it's honestly an outcome that I'm surprised to see happen. And that's why that speech that she gave on Thursday night was so disappointing. Like, right, I wouldn't have been, excited, right? I know, vaguely where Kamala Harris is at politically, and it's not, it's not where I want it to be, but yeah, the choice of Waltz was, pretty surprising.
In maybe weeks, more likely months, or even years. That's the reality of how deep the problems are. And I get it that you can get a feeling of catharsis.
Olette B says Candace Owens feels like something white liberals like to punish us with, like to put us in our place for speaking out. Yeah, there's like a weird way. I think I've seen this dynamic before, right? Where like somebody outside of a marginalized group uses like a negative stereotype threat as like a way to attack that group, but in like it's like a backhanded thing. It's not like a like they're not saying it, but it's there.
By leaving a mean comment or a response video on someone's TikTok. And as good as that might make you feel in the moment, it really only makes things worse. Very few things change from that type of interaction. It's just harmful in the end. And that goes for everyone involved, whether I mostly agree with you or not. We have to have more discipline and focus on these platforms when it comes to serious shit. Because otherwise, from my perspective, this is all my opinion, this shit is a waste of time. You're better off, for those left-leaning.
Oh shit!
Just making content about.
Olette, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, Olette says like a good example I keep saying is when people say listen to black people and people respond, "Oh, should I listen to Candace Owens?" That's literally a Vaush quote. That's literally a Vaush quote. And it's like, yeah, listen to somebody doesn't mean you fucking agree with them. But if you listen to enough black people, you're going to understand that Candace Owens' viewpoint does not represent the majority of people. It's yeah, that's literally like Vaush's, anti-SJW shit.
Anime or something, because the politics are getting perverted through these mediums. Today's video is sponsored by Ground News. I promise you they sponsored this video over a month ago. It just so happened that the topics coincided. I got to make sure y'all understand that.
All right. This is Signified B-Sides. This is FD Signifier's second channel. And if you're not signed, if you're not subbed yet, here is the link. Oh wow, I already put that in there. Oh my god. I'm used to having 3 chats, chat. Has FD mentioned Eminem? Yeah, I think he talked about Eminem in a long, a pretty old video. Fallen Gemini says, it reminds me of the recent Assassin's Creed controversy where white liberals don't understand why a lack of an Asian male lead can be seen as problematic in the first main Asian Assassin's Creed game. Don't pretend to speak for people you're not, but you can speak on their behalf. I think that's backwards. We're talking about Tim Waltz. He was a coach and in the military. I didn't hear he was a FF. Maybe I missed it. I was an FF. Wait, why am I blanking on what an FF is? It's like when you say believe victims, and they were like, "Oh, so I should believe a known liar making false allegations?" Yeah, it's exactly like that. They're missing the point. I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird how I don't know if it's because it's such a short phrase, but for some reason people are unable to hold the nuance in their mind that believe victims is not about jumping to conclusions on somebody's guilt. It's about not jumping to conclusions that the person that has maybe said something that you don't want to hear about somebody that you thought was your friend. Maybe don't jump down their throat. Maybe don't attack their fucking character. Maybe give them a chance to speak. Maybe don't try to discredit them immediately, because that shit always happens. Yeah, people entirely miss the point of believe victims. Just like what Alette was saying, that people think that listen to black people means, oh, you should listen to Candace Owens. Chat, how come you are so good at going to sleep right before I do? I do need to get to sleep too. But I did want to talk to chat a little bit, just because I got so absorbed in that video and didn't say a lot. Didn't say a lot to chat. Shiny Nick says, maybe I just need to drink the Kool-Aid right now for the sake of my mental health. We literally got our passports this year. I'm in Arkansas. Everyone I know here, I need any hope I can find. I mean, look, yeah, I do understand that. I do understand that. And I definitely don't want to, pull anybody down or drag anybody down or, tell anybody not to be hopeful. I am still hopeful. Like, I'm always hopeful, right? I mean, how awesome would it be if there was some candidate, even if they didn't say the right things in the election, they go into office and they do the right things. They get into power and they realize, I've got 4 years to do what I've always thought that every president going into office should do. And they never do. I'm going to be different, right? I always hope for that. And it could happen. It could happen. It could happen with Kamala. Who knows? Yeah, it's just like, I guess like the whole hope thing is, it like, I get a little hope from the fact that she's nominated Waltz, and then the convention speech, I lose a little hope. But yeah, I'm definitely not telling anybody that there's not a point in voting for the candidate that will keep Trump from getting back into power, or that nothing, good can come out of this, or that everything's always going to be the same. Everyone's going to be Hillary Clinton forever and ever. It's just what I'm afraid of, right? Because that was the whole thing about that speech, is it felt a little bit like Hillary Clinton. It's not really missing the point. Just trying to dismiss someone because they might be wrong. Wait, sorry, I'm trying to read. It's specifically about a point I was making. Wait, sorry, did I read your chat out of context? YouTube sucks, says Bad Lefty. Sorry, Narwhal, what are you saying? Oh, you were referring to the whole listening to black people thing. I'm sorry, Chad, if I'm taking people out of context here. Oh, you're talking about your uncle? Random Girl 3PO says, I'm here for the first woman be president being black. White women everywhere will be quietly seething until we elect Chelsea Manning in 3032. For a second, I thought you were going to say Chelsea Clinton. For a second, I thought you were going to say Chelsea Clinton. Then they'll be loudly seething. That's quite possible. I'll be on the DN stage in 28. Me and Sean Fain coming off of a general strike at the LA Olympics, and Emma Vigeland doing color commentary. Yes, Chelsea Manning way better than Chelsea Clinton. And whoever said yeah, Candace Owens, that's Wait, is chat gonna drink Kool-Aid without me? What are people talking about drinking Kool-Aid? Now I'm thirsty. I'm thirsty and I'm hungry. You're saying that, okay, so when like people like Vaush say that listen to black people means listen to Candace Owens, it's not really missing, it's just trying to dismiss someone because they might be wrong. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So he uses the existence of Candace Owens as a reason to dismiss listening to black people at all. Let me read some YouTube or some Twitch chat here. Kamala, I'm obviously holding on to many reservations but I can't help but love Waltz. Yeah, Waltz is awesome. He's like a perfect candidate for the people instead of the yeah. Waltz was a huge surprise for me. Jenny Nix says, as far as I've researched, there's never been a president who went in to make sweeping progressive changes. Those who have always came from people. We have to change and organize. Yeah, I mean, like, look, in terms of economic policy, and I'm not trying to run over the fact that the New Deal policies were unequally distributed across a race, right? But those policies being, some of the strongest and still is existent like safety nets were made by a president who was not a leftist by any means, who, if anything, had a class affinity towards the wealthy, and who was nonetheless pressed to undertake the policies that he did, not to destroy capitalism or to undermine capitalism or to move us past capitalism, but to save capitalism from itself. Agree about Kamala. My vote is for Waltz at this point. He's the biggest reason I'm voting on this ticket. Power concedes nothing without demand, says Bad Lefty. Yeah, thank you for being good chatters. And thank you to the mods, all right? Thank you to the mods. And I should probably get to bed. I'm not missing much here. No. I always my biggest regret is that I don't read enough of chat out loud, and that people think that they're like posting into a void, because you're not posting into a void. I am at least reading what you say, if not responding to it always, as you could get into these segments and have to kind of concentrate on them. But yeah, I always like to take time to talk to chat. So that's why I stayed on a little bit extra tonight. Anyway, chat is telling me to go to bed. I think that's good advice. Much love, everybody. And thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for supporting the stream. Thank you, mods, for keeping us safe. And I'll be back at it again tomorrow, hopefully at an earlier time, because I don't want to be streaming so late in the future. Good night, everybody. I wasn't yapping for a moment, but I was sharing your page in Hassan's offline chat. That's really sweet. Thank you, Manic Mermaid Dash. Yeah, I'm sort of towards the end of my stream right now. I don't know how many hours I did tonight, but I guess I'll figure it out when I wake up, and hopefully we'll do a more reasonable stream tomorrow, because I'm getting in this bad cycle of staying up too late and then starting stream too late and then staying up too late again, and I gotta fix that. So anyway, chat, much love. I will see you all again tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourselves and each